Chapter 591. In the snowstorm, the group had already moved away from Sue Cher and the Lake of Blood. But they didn't retreat just like that. The 7 to 8 demonized candidates placed their hands on the bald brute's shoulders. They gave up all the soul points they had collected. The bald man smirked as he looked at the Lake of Blood. At this point, he was no longer afraid of the blood giant, because the soul points of the 8 of them had already met kindling as requirements. Pretty little girl, a delicate flower like you should be violently ravaged to death. The bald man told Sue Cher. He seemed to be intoxicated, as if he was fantasizing about something. Astaroth, get rid of them, Sue Cher said in disgust. The blood giant responded and charged forward. With each step, he left a deep footprint on the frozen wasteland. The bald man's expression changed. He opened his arms towards the sky and quickly spoke. Kindling, I offer you all of my soul points in exchange for the demon lord's protection. A second later, something appeared from the void of space. The bald man stared closely at it and chanted, Jycrops, climb up from the abyss of fallen souls. The demon king order needs you. Boom! A gray giant hand broke through the ice, followed by a 25-meter wide head. It turned its head in a circle, observing its surroundings. It was now that everyone noticed that the head only had a single eye and a gaping maw. For the demon king order, the head spoke in a low voice. A large section of the frozen wasteland cracked open and peeled off from the ground. Then the huge body crawled out. He had the dark skin of a corpse, giving off a thick stench of rotting flesh. The one-eyed giant stood up, reached into the ground, and took out a large mace. He swung the mace, silently waiting for orders. This demon lord was a bit similar to the altered demon lord that Gu Qing ran into in the dark tunnel. But the demon lord that Gu Qing ran into only had half a body left, while this demon lord was completely intact and wielded a weapon. Get rid of that blood giant, the bald man shouted in a frenzy. Understood, the god fiend responded in a deep voice. The others stared at the demon god, their faces gradually revealing fanaticism. This was a dreamlike ability. Such a powerful monster would actually listen to the orders of these people. This feeling was like conquering the whole world. Later on, when I become stronger, I'll be able to summon such a monster to fight for me, and there'll definitely be a place for me among the lords of the 900 million world layers. Hearing the order, the giant demon god charged towards the blood lake without saying a word. The monster of the sea of blood, Astaroth, also rushed towards the giant. Soon, the two giants crashed into each other. They tore at each other and roared. The sound of every strike shook the entire ice field. This was like the battle of the giants in ancient myths. Moreover, from the looks of it, they would not be able to determine the victor within a short period of time. Let's go and capture that girl. She can summon such a monster, so she must have a lot of soul power in her body. The bald man shouted again. The others immediately understood. Yes, soul power. Only soul power could be used to exchange for power from the fire seed. They stared at Sue Cher greedily. One of them gulped and shouted, The soul power is yours. I only want this girl deal. In front of Sue Cher, they had already begun to divide her up. Sue Cher was furious. Gritting her teeth, she unleashed her trump card. The scepter gave off a deep crimson glow, then abruptly exploded into 13 clusters of flames. The flames drifted, slowly losing their color in the wind. 13 cards neatly lined up in the void of space. Sue Cher stared at the deck and hesitated a bit. Because of the continuous consumption of soul points, the amount of time that the system could protect her was rapidly decreasing. At this point, she only had 15 minutes left. If she activated these 13 cards, she didn't know how much longer she could last. The demonized combatants were flying towards her. They were getting closer and closer to Sue Cher. Ah, this girl looks even prettier up close. Don't try to steal her. Someone excitedly shouted. No, you have to let us enjoy her first before you take her away. Another voice couldn't help but shout. These two sentences deeply angered Sue Cher. She immediately made the final decision. Even if I have to pay any price, I can't let myself fall into these people's hands. Flowing blood sea, You know of the existence that walks the blood sea abyss. Sue-Cher raised her voice and chanted, Blood sea, please help me summon her. Let her majesty descend upon this world. Om. A ripple of soul power spread out in all directions. Today, seems like it's going to be fun. A female chuckle came from somewhere. At the same time, the 13 cards flipped over to form a portrait of a beautiful woman. The demonized candidates all stopped. They stared blankly at the portrait, motionless. Ah, this is so beautiful, an unimaginable beauty, truly, they muttered to themselves. The woman in the portrait was unbelievably beautiful. Although her eyes were closed, she exuded a boundless charm. The 8 demonized candidates found themselves unable to move their eyes away. Their eyes slowly lost focus. Little girl, your situation doesn't look too good. In the portrait, the beautiful woman's eyes were still closed as she muttered. When she spoke, there were no other living beings around. No one responded to her. The 8 demonized candidates just stood there in a daze, staring at her without saying a word. Only the sound of the battle between the demon lord and the blood sea giant could be heard from afar. That's right. Thank you for coming. I will prepare the offering later, Sue-Cher respectfully said. Offering? Not this time. If you can survive and tell me your story, I'll be satisfied. While saying so, the beautiful woman lightly waved the fan in her hand. A breeze blew. Her silky hair fluttered in the wind. The thin dress she was wearing couldn't hide her jade-like skin and jade-like skin at all. As the fragrance drifted, it was another peerless charm. My story. Sue-Cher was startled. Yes, this is really too rare. The beautiful woman said with a pitiful expression, What you're facing is clearly the danger of someone else's fate, but you're bearing it for him. I've seen many strange things in the hundreds of millions of years I've been in the blood sea abyss, but I haven't seen a girl like you for tens of thousands of years. Remember, someone with your talent shouldn't bear too much for others. I hope you can survive. With that, the beautiful woman with her eyes closed disappeared from the portrait. The 13 dull cards flew back into the scepter. Sue-Cher was stunned for a moment, but she immediately reacted. She looked at the system interface. Time remaining, 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Oh no, I'm running out of soul power. She then looked at the 8 demonized candidates. They suddenly opened their eyes. What happened? I think I've lost consciousness. Wait, everyone, I can't move. What? You too? I can't lift my feet. I can't even move a finger. The 8 ferocious men shouted. Chapter 592. In the snowstorm, the 8 villains stood still without moving, their expressions extremely pale. What exactly is going on? Someone roared in a frenzy. The bald, robust man replied, I've already paid soul points and asked Kindling. It said that this is an extremely powerful curse. Kindling knows what this is. Everyone calm down a bit. Kindling can definitely undo it, as long as we pay a bit of soul points, the bald, robust man loudly declared, but his voice slowly became lower. His expression became extremely pale, because in his vision, Kindling left him a line of text. Pay 100,000 soul points to undo this curse. 100,000 soul points. This was an astronomical number that no one had ever seen before. Even after killing so many people, the bald, robust man only obtained 110 soul points at most. The same scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes. No, there's no way to undo this curse. We're done for, someone said in despair. Sue-Cher wielded her scepter and slowly walked out from the snowstorm. She stopped in front of everyone and looked at the bald, robust man. The bald, robust man's expression changed several times before he finally squeezed out a stiff smile. We're sorry, young lady. It was all a misunderstanding. We mistook you for someone else. Seeing him like that, the others hurriedly nodded. That's right. We mistook you for someone else. We're really sorry. We shouldn't have acted rashly. Please forgive us. Please be magnanimous and let us go. We'll lead the way for you from now on. They all try to flatter her. Sue-Cher didn't hear them at all. She moved her gaze away from the bald, robust man's face and looked at someone else. Just now, you said you wanted me? Sue-Cher softly asked. The man hesitated a bit, but couldn't think of a way to explain himself. Sushare lightly stroked the scepter and drew a card from it. This was a gray card. Gray represented the lowest level of cards. There was only a sharp dagger on the card's surface. As Sushare flicked the card, the dagger appeared in her hand. The man realized something and cried out in fear, "Don't, please don't. I was wrong. I shouldn't have offended you. Please spare my life. There are many people in my family waiting for me to feed." Sushare said, "You deserve sympathy, but what if I had fallen into your hands just now?" She shook her head and said nothing more. She stabbed the dagger into the man's chest at a slow speed. "Ah!" that person screamed. Sushare held the dagger and slashed downwards. The sharp dagger cut through the flesh, but it was stuck in the sternum. Sushare tried hard and found that she didn't have the strength to cut open the sternum. She sighed and let go of his hand. The servant of flesh walked up and held the dagger in her place. "Cut downwards all the way to the end," Sushare ordered. The servant of flesh and blood held the dagger tightly and cut open the villain's chest all the way to the middle of his legs, cutting all the flesh and blood in half. "Ah, you devil woman!" The man screamed in agony. The others were also soaked in cold sweat as they saw this, shouting in a frenzy. "Continue. There are 7 more people. They'll be treated the same." Sushare crossed her arms. The servant of flesh and blood held the dagger and cut open the stomachs of all the people who killed him. On the frozen wasteland, screams and cries resounded one after another. After doing all that, the servant of flesh and blood obediently returned to Sushare. He knelt on the ground and brought the dagger in front of Sushare. The blood-stained dagger turned back into a card and lightly flew in front of Sushare. "This is my fruit-peeling knife. Unfortunately, I can't wash it clean anymore," Sushare muttered. She lightly tapped the card from afar. The gray card quickly flew away with the snowstorm and disappeared from Sushare's sight. She had given up on this card. "All right, lady, you've calmed down. Can you let us go now?" The bald, robust man endured the intense pain and breathed heavily. Sushare looked at him and suddenly smiled. She deduced, "You don't have a way to use soul points, yet you were able to summon such a monster. If that's the case, the only way for you to obtain soul points is by killing," pointing at the one-eyed giant that crawled out from the ground. Sushare asked, "Summoning that monster probably requires quite a bit of soul points, right?" Everyone exchanged glances, not daring to answer. "Among the people you killed, if there were any females, you must have," Sushare muttered, but didn't continue. It was easy to imagine what happened to those girls. Even I had to use everything I had to defeat them. With that in mind, Sushare's expression became pale from anger. She asked the servant of flesh and blood, "Do you still remember who killed you?" The servant of flesh and blood appeared troubled and replied, "I don't remember anything from when I was alive, but whenever I faced them, I felt a sense of discomfort. While they're still alive, eat them, yes. Thank you, Master, for bestowing me with food." A few moments later, Sushare nervously stared at the system UI. 2 lines of text quickly appeared on the UI. "You've obtained some soul points as replenishment. The system will continue to help you resist kindling S invasion. Remaining time to live, 22 minutes. Sushare looked at these 2 lines of text. "I have 22 minutes left." She wiped the tears from her eyes and told the servant of flesh and blood, "Let's go." On another side, Guqing Shan opened her eyes from the darkness. Cold, very cold. This was an unnatural chill that wasn't something that a physique could resist. She couldn't see anything around her. A voice suddenly resounded in her ears. "Welcome to the light of dawn, Tree's collection world. You must help Tree solve a few of her problems. She will reward you according to your work. After you solve a problem, the world will automatically send you to another problem. The more problems you solve, the more generous your reward will be. And now, the first problem has come. First battle, siege battle. You must work together with everyone else to defeat the enemy and break through their siege. This is a test of your skills. If you can successfully break through their siege, you will officially be qualified to help the light of dawn clean up the world's problems. The test shall now begin." The voice disappeared. In the cold silence, a small, cold hand reached out and grabbed Gu Qingshan's hand. "What is it?" Gu Qingshan asked. "I'm scared," Lola curtly replied. The two of them listened. The howling of the snowstorm outside sounded like the cries of ghosts. "Did you hear that voice just now?" "I did, but I've isolated myself. I won't do anything, so Trieste won't be able to discover me, and this world won't trouble me. So that's why. Let's go. I'll take the front, you take the back. Can I sit on your shoulder?" "Why?" "When I'm scared, my father always acts like this." Lola's voice stopped. Her spirits sank. Her father is no longer here. Father, mother, little brother, even her entire family is no longer here. And now, I'm the only one left in this world. Gu Qingshan sighed. He just found out that the Bramblebird's age was different from humans. A year in the fantasy zones was extremely short. The 12-year-old Bramblebird Princess Lola, according to human age, was only around 7 years old. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then picked up Lola and put her on his right shoulder. "I like sitting on the left," Lola said. Gu Qingshan put her back on his left shoulder. Lola seemed to have remembered something as her eyes started to redden. About that. I'm actually also an orphan," Gu Qingshan interrupted her. You're an orphan?" Lola appeared interested. "I'm already used to living like this. And being an orphan also has its benefits," Gu Qingshan said. "What benefits?" Lola was intrigued by this topic. "When we die, we won't have to worry about too many people shedding tears. What kind of benefit is that? How is it not a benefit? When you see others grieve for you, you'll feel even more grieved, but our advantage lies in the fact that we can perfectly avoid that kind of situation from now on." "Is that a kind of advantage?" "Of course, saying so." They pushed the door open and quickly left. The howling of the snowstorm filled his ears. This was a snowstorm, and Gu Qingshan found himself standing in the middle of a city. He released his inner sight to observe his surroundings. Corpses were piled up everywhere in the abandoned, dilapidated, and ancient city. Outside of the city was an endless frozen wasteland. The voice said that I must join hands with everyone, but there's no one else here. Seems like I came in too late. Everyone else has already left, so I can't even find a single comrade. What a terrible start. Gu Qingshan muttered in a low voice. Lola sat comfortably on his shoulder and replied, "That's not the case." "Because you're here?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Dong, dong, dong." With a series of dull sounds, the ground began to shake. The corpses piled up in the city began to move. At the same time, some humanoid monsters crawled out from the ground. They opened their empty eye sockets to look at Gu Qingshan and Lola on the city wall. From the looks of it, they were humans when they were alive, but they had lost their eyes. The corpses also regained their mobility. Lola said, "I think the situation is even worse than you think." As she spoke, the monsters charged towards the two of them. "We don't have time to waste here." Gu Qingshan grabbed the earth sword from the void of space and held it in her hand. Chapter 593. Lola patted Gu Qingshan's shoulder and said, "Do your best. I can't do anything." Following her words, the monsters noticed the two of them. They surrounded them. At the same time, the piles of corpses in the city began to slowly move. It would take a bit of time for so many corpses to be spread out. It couldn't be helped, as Kinling had already used the monsters to kill too many people in the very first trial. Those who entered this place didn't expect the call of the Bramblebirds to be a cruel battle of life and death. Those who survived wouldn't have thought too much about it, because according to the rules, those who died would have already returned to a bull. Roar! The humanoid monsters crawled out from the ground and charged from every direction. Long blades protruded from their joints. All of them were stained with blood. Some even had bits of flesh hanging on them. From a few dozen meters away, the monsters leapt up, heading straight for Gu Qingshan and Lola. Gu Qingshan stood still, swinging the earth sword like a blooming flower of swords. Countless sword phantoms flew from the sword, slashing at the monsters in the sky. Blood rained down. "Not good. There are too many." Lola looked around and shouted worriedly. Indeed, more and more monsters were crawling out from the ground, and the piles of corpses were also slowly unfolding. The corpses staggered, mixed in with the horde of monsters, squeezing and squeezing towards Gu Shan and Lola. The snow-covered city was slowly being taken over by the horde of monsters. There really are quite a lot of them. No wonder this trial is called a siege battle, Gu Shan mused. He silently thought, since this trial is a test of strength, flying away isn't a good idea. Think of something quickly. We're done for if we're surrounded, Lola said. Gu Shan let go of the earth sword. Kill. He spat out a single word. The earth sword flew out, drawing a beautiful arc around Gu Shan's body. The cold crescent-white sword phantoms turned into a full moon that quickly expanded, cutting the monsters in its path in half. Secret art, crescent slash. Gu Shan was already a sainted realm sword cultivator, so this secret art was able to display unprecedented power in his hands. It's so beautiful. Is this the flying sword technique? Lola clapped excitedly. Gu Shan was speechless. She looked like she was watching a fireworks show. Unexpectedly, the monsters that dodged the sword auras all lay on the ground, stuffing the severed limbs into their mouths. Monsters kept emerging from the ground. These guys were fighting over the corpses. Their numbers were constantly increasing, and the rate at which they were increasing was getting faster and faster. In just a few breaths, the densely packed monsters had looted all the corpses. The entire city was filled with the sound of chewing that made people's hair stand on end. The monsters that had eaten the corpses had become even larger. Both their strength and speed had increased. They roared and charged towards Gu Shan and Lola. Looking down from above, one could only see the black torrents converging to form an ocean, completely surrounding Gu Shan and Lola. The space was getting smaller and smaller. The two of them were about to be swallowed by the horde of monsters. Break through, Gu Shan. This battle is a test of our ability to break through. Lola hurriedly reminded. Gu Shan didn't say anything. He casually formed a hand seal. The spirit energy in his dantian was surging. After becoming a sainted realm late-stage cultivator, Gu Shan hadn't used her full power for a very long time. 3 swords appeared from the void of space. The first sword was ancient and full of vicissitudes of life. The second sword had a strange shape and appeared to be very long. The third sword was as beautiful as the autumn water. Go, Gu Shan muttered. The 3 swords disappeared. They shuttled between the sky and the earth at an extremely fast speed, leaving behind a series of stagnant sword shadows. Each of the sword images stopped in the void of space, not moving at all. The 3 swords moved faster and faster, until all that could be seen was a black shadow that flashed by and disappeared. The entire desolate city was filled with densely packed sword shadows. Everything happened too quickly. The monsters only managed to take a few steps before all the sword images landed where they were supposed to land. Strangely, even though these sword images covered the entire city, the monsters didn't take any damage at all as they passed through them. What is this? Lola asked in surprise. Gu Shan sighed and activated the hand seal. Tai sword array, activate. A light breeze blew. No one knew where the wind came from, but it blew into the city and suddenly turned into a fierce gale. There was nothing that could stop the wind from blowing. All the monsters disappeared in the wind. The giant pile of corpses seemed to have been erased by something invisible. They didn't even know what happened before they died. The strong wind howled and swept across the entire land, carrying everything that was spiraling up into the sky, blowing away the thick, leaden clouds above the entire city. The snow stopped. The clear blue sky appeared above the city. The sun appeared. Its warm sunlight shone upon the entire city, making everyone feel warm. And so a miraculous scene occurred. Inside the city walls, the sunlight illuminated the entire city. Outside the city walls, the snowstorm continued. This miraculous scene lasted for over a dozen breaths worth of time before it slowly faded away. In the end, even the 4 sides of the city walls were blown away by the wind. In this wind, the entire city was blown away, leaving behind a vast expanse of snow. The wind stopped. The dark clouds gathered once again. The world returned to its somber and gloomy state. Snowflakes fluttered down from the sky. It was only now that Gu Qingshan dispelled the hand seal. Lola stood up from Gu Qingshan's shoulder and looked around. Within her field of vision, besides the snow and the ground, everything else was erased by the intense, sword-infused wind. The world was vast. Snowflakes lightly drifted down. Both the city and the ghosts were gone. A vast expanse of white. How clean, Lola sighed. I didn't think you put in so much effort, she was silently surprised, thinking that this Gu Qingshan really did have some skill. A single strike wiped out an entire city. This level of swordsmanship was enough to make him one of the best among the newcomers under 30 within the 900 million world layers. No wonder Iron Fist, Bali also took him in. We don't have much time. I just want to finish this battle as soon as possible, Gu Qingshan scowled. He focused his mind. The 3 flying swords immediately flew back and landed in the void behind him, quietly hovering there. Gu Qingshan was annoyed. We've passed this round, right? Why isn't there anything to judge yet? Lola silently observed him and noticed something. Are you worried about her? Lola asked. I don't know how she's doing, and I don't know if we'll be able to catch up to her with our speed. Gu Qingshan sighed. Lola understood. So he was just trying to save time. What kind of girl is she to be treated like this? Lola was a bit curious. She stared at Gu Qingshan and suddenly asked, Have you slept with her yet? Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised, but still answered, We haven't, so pure. How did you do it? Little girl, what do you know? Gu Qingshan turned his face away, silently recalling Su Share's kiss. At the time, he had no choice but to pretend to be asleep, not even moving. Thinking that, he couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 594. As Gu Qingshan sensed something, he turned around and found that all 3 of his swords were trembling. Noticing his gaze, the Earth Sword and 6 Paths Great Mountain sword stopped moving. The Chao Yin sword didn't notice that Gu Qingshan was still trembling. The Earth Sword hit it once. What are you doing? Gu Qingshan was surprised. Discussing tactics, Shanu's voice came from the 6 Paths Great Mountain sword. She seemed a bit nervous. The Earth Sword solemnly replied, That's right, that strike just now was very powerful. So we're thinking about how to cooperate. Gu Qingshan turned around. The 3 swords all sighed in relief. Standing on Gu Qingshan's shoulder, Lola looked around. Within the howling blizzard, her vision was greatly limited. This restriction seemed to originate from some sort of origin law of the world. No matter how skilled you are, you can't see very far with your eyes alone. Lola thought for a bit, then took out a small backpack from her back. She searched inside for a bit, and randomly took out a pair of binoculars. Lola used the binoculars to look far away. It's the same everywhere. There are even cliffs and monsters, she loudly said. I don't know which direction to go right now. We can only wait for directions, Gu Qingshan said. While they were talking, a flash of light could be seen flickering in the middle of the frozen wasteland. The flash of light flickered here and there until it turned into a pillar of light that reached all the way to the sky, then stopped moving. This was a clear indicator of where to go. Sit tight. Let's go, Gu Qingshan said. Lola obediently sat down on Gu Qingshan's shoulder. Gu Qingshan's body moved and flew towards the direction the light was pointing at. The 2 of them were moving forward on the frozen wasteland. Occasionally, some large monsters would jump out from the snow. Gu Qingshan was in a hurry, so he didn't hold back at all, killing a monster with each strike. Spirit energy surged around him. Gu Qingshan was flying as close to the ground as he could. He was moving as fast as he could to where the light was coming from. This place was a cliff. Gu Qingshan released his inner sight to check the bottom of the cliff, but still couldn't reach the bottom. Within the range of his inner sight, all he could see were steep cliffs covered in snow. At this point, a voice came. You did very well, so you've received the best qualification, directly skipped all the other tests, and arrived at Tree's official reward mission. The voice continued to narrate. A group of powerful monsters is about to appear. They've always been hiding in the ice abyss, only appearing when Triest isn't paying attention to cause destruction. This is a small problem, but it's enough to make Triest feel annoyed. You who have answered the Bramblebirds, please help the Bramblebird Triest resolve this small problem. For you who are under 30 years old, This will be you, it will be that you will, you. The bramble, Shan. After that, the voice disappeared. The mountain. This is the summoning of the bramblebirds? Gu Shan Qing Shan, Ling said, Shan, gu gu. Gu. Yes, this is a normal process of the bramblebirds' call, Laura answered. Gu Qing Shan looked down into the icy abyss. There were a lot of clumsy monsters in the abyss. Their bodies were transparent, so you could see their strange internal organs. But those organs looked like they were made from ice and rock, large and crude. These monsters were climbing up the cliff. Their speed was very fast, and it did not match their size at all. It's a snow fiend, Lola said. What's a snow fiend? Gu Qing Shan asked. A type of semi-elemental monster that's very hard to kill, Lola explained. Rocks and ice can heal their wounds quickly, because they were originally made from these elements. Looking at the monsters that were becoming clearer and clearer in the abyss, Gu Qing Shan silently scowled. According to what the voice said, this type of monster should be quite strong, so cooperation is needed. Not to mention that they aren't easy to kill. The best way to deal with them all at once is to use the Tai sword array. With that in mind, Gu Qing Shan immediately said, It's okay, I'll deal with them. He activated his sword hand seal. All three swords pointed at the icy abyss, exuding killing intent at the same time. They had prepared themselves. Wait a minute, Lola said. What is it? If you keep attacking at full power like this, you'll consume too much energy. Let me help you. Didn't you say you couldn't fight? I'll take out the item. You do it. Lola once again took out the small backpack on her back. She opened the backpack and searched through it. Where exactly is it? Gu Qing Shan looked at Lola, then at the monsters in the abyss. After waiting for a few moments, he couldn't help but say, We don't have much time. Found it, Lola joyfully said. She put something in Gu Qing Shan's hand. When Gu Qing Shan saw it, he saw that it was a pistol. It was a delicate silver pistol, very cute and small, not even as big as Gu Qing Shan's palm. Gu Qing Shan tried it and found that she could barely pull the trigger. A pistol? This is for self-defense. Unfortunately, there's only one bullet left. Will this be useful? Try it and you'll know. Gu Qing Shan silently shook her head. Don't be ridiculous. There's only one bullet left. Can kill a monster? She's still a little girl after all. As Gu Qing Shan was about to return the pistol to Lola, she suddenly realized something. Meow once said that any item from the mystic zones is priceless. The bramblebirds live in the mystic zones, and they like to collect treasures. If that wasn't the case, why would so many people in the entire 900 million world layers answer the call of the light of Dawn Triest? And the little girl on my shoulder is the bramblebird princess, the next heir to the throne of the bramblebird race. With such a status, why would she casually take out something useless? Gu Qing Shan made up her mind. At the same time, lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. The legendary firearm, Divine Flaming Bird Phoenix. War God skills. This equipment does not contain any learnable skills. Chronicles. There are too many famous assassinations in history that are related to it, but in the last 10,000 years, it has disappeared without a trace. If you wish to understand the events of the past, please pay 100 soul points or find a random history book. Gu Qing Shan suddenly understood. This gun might actually be quite powerful. Fine, it's not like I'll be too much of a problem with just one shot. He held the silver pistol and aimed it at the icy abyss. Then I'll fire. Lola covered her ears with both hands and appeared excited. She seems to be enjoying this kind of drama. Gu Qing Shan aimed at the first snow fiend and pulled the trigger. Pop! The silver pistol vibrated a bit. Gu Qing Shan looked at the icy abyss in shock. The bullet went through the snow fiend's body, escaped the range of his inner sight in the blink of an eye, and went straight into the abyss. So fast, Gu Qing Shan asked himself, if someone else had fired this shot at me, I would have been in grave danger if I wasn't fully prepared. In the icy abyss, the snow fiend that was shot went stiff and rolled down the cliff. Its body disappeared into the abyss. Impressive speed and power. Gu Qing Shan praised and returned the pistol to Lola. It hasn't started yet. Let's back off a bit, Lola said. Gu Qing Shan was a bit surprised. Hurry and back off. It's too hot for me, Lola urged her. Gu Qing Shan hurriedly brought her back from the cliff. As soon as he stood still, the icy abyss began to shine with a blinding light. As the temperature rose, the ice and snow began to melt, mixing with the flying rocks and dust to form a sky-high cloud of dust. Within the cloud of dust, countless screams of pain resounded. Ho! A giant flaming bird made entirely of magma flew out from the icy abyss. It spread its wings, its entire body filling the edge of the icy abyss. The giant bird stared at Gu Qingshan and said, "Please give me a score for this service." Gu Qingshan looked at Lola. Lola glared at him and said, "You're the one who fired the shot." Gu Qingshan had no choice but to ask the giant flaming bird, "Is it done?" "Annihilation. Full marks," Gu Qingshan said. The giant flaming bird nodded in satisfaction and disappeared into thin air. Gu Qingshan was stunned for a moment. Then he walked to the edge of the cliff and looked down. The boiling magma flowed slowly. The mountain rocks were burned red, and large patches of ice and snow sank into the lava, instantly turning into rising mist and evaporating. The snow fiend had already melted into nothingness. The entire icy abyss had turned into a lake of magma. Watching this magnificent scene, Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, "This is the last bullet?" "Yes. What a pity." Chapter 595. On the frozen wasteland. The snowstorm howled. In the middle of the vast expanse of white frost, there was a section of land that gave off a sky-high glow. Gu Qingshan and Lola stood at the edge of the cliff, waiting for the quest to end. "Why hasn't it confirmed that we've completed the quest yet?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Normally, it would take a bit more time to confirm." "Don't be hasty," Lola replied. While they were talking, they seemed to have sensed something and went silent, only to see that the lava lake below was still rippling. Following that, a strange object floated to the surface of the lava. At a glance, it looked like a complete pine cone, about the size of a small boat that could fit 3 to 5 people. Being soaked by the lava, the mud and dirt on the cone's surface slowly melted away, revealing a mysterious pattern on the shell. From the looks of it, this large shell was originally hidden at the bottom of the ice abyss, guarded by countless snow fiends. If it weren't for the legendary gun, Divine Bird of Flames Phoenix playing its role and destroying the entire ice abyss, no one would have found this fruit. "What exactly is this?" Gu Qingshan asked. "A frost fruit." Lola had a strange expression on her face. "This is a fruit from a treasure tree in the mystic zones. It likes to hide in cold places. It can isolate its presence and resist all detection. Its only weakness is that it's afraid of heat. No wonder it floated up." Gu Qingshan nodded. "What a coincidence. If it weren't for the gun, this fruit would have continued to hide." While they were talking, the fruit couldn't stay still in the lava anymore. The surface of the fruit started to crack. Crack! The sound of something breaking could be heard. The fruit broke into many pieces. An ice crystal feather that gave off a chilling presence appeared in front of them. It was propped up by a piece of broken fruit shell. For a moment, it had not come into contact with the boiling lava. As soon as this feather appeared, the lava around it was quickly extinguished. Large amounts of lava froze into gray-black rocks. But this ice crystal feather had to fight against the entire lava lake. It wasn't strong enough. The feather started to shake. All of a sudden, a faint 5-colored glow appeared on the surface of the ice crystal feather. Lola's expression changed. She had already recognized the feather. "Quick, save it!" Lola screamed. "All right." Gu Qingshan activated the telekinesis spell, stood on the cliff, and waved her hand. The frost feather flew into his hand. The chill was bone-piercing. A thin layer of frost crawled up his fingers and spread up his arms. Gu Qingshan used her spiritual power to temporarily resist the frost. This level of ice elemental power did not pose a threat to him. However, this was merely a feather, yet it possessed such power. Thinking about it carefully, he couldn't help but feel surprised. Gu Qingshan squinted her eyes, carefully observing the ice crystal feather. There was a faint trace of blood on the feather. The feather left the lava lake, and the layer of colorful light surrounding it weakened a little. Lola heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Gu Qing Shan acted in time. Otherwise, under the stimulation of the lava, the aura of the feather would have been completely exposed. Still not feeling assured, she chanted an incantation on the ice crystal feather. Slowly, the light on the ice crystal feather was absorbed back into the feather. The feather returned to normal. "Oh, I've hidden its presence. Triest won't be able to discover its existence," Lola sighed in relief. Gu Qing Shan silently waited for her to finish before asking, "What is this?" Lola's expression was a mixture of sadness and confusion. "This is the feather of Ilya of the Frost of the Cold Night. Seems like she used to hide here," Lola muttered. "She's someone you know?" "Yes, Ilya of the Frost of the Cold Night and Triest of the Light of Dawn. They were the two strongest people of the bramble birds. The Light of Dawn was in charge of security. She was in charge of all the guards of the royal family. In charge of all matters of safety, Triest took advantage of the fact that we left the kingdom and came to a bull to kill all of my family members and sealed off the news." "What about Frost of the Cold Night?" "She was in charge of all external warfare matters of the bramble bird kingdom." Gu Qing Shan realized the importance of this and raised his eyebrows in surprise. "The entire army is under her command?" he asked. "Yes, why would she be here?" Lola shook her head. "I'm not sure either. Originally, when we left, Triest was in charge of all security matters, while Ilya was in charge of defending the country. So why would her feather appear here?" Lola also fell into deep doubt. What exactly is going on? Gu Qing Shan was quickly thinking. "I'll try to push it a bit. See if I'm right," he said. "Very well," Lola replied. "There's blood on the feather. Seems like she was injured." "Correct. Since she hid the feather, she was obviously afraid that Triest would find her," Lola nodded. "The feathers of a bramble bird still contain immense power, even after they shed them. If that's the case, she must have been injured in the outside world before being able to enter this world." "How do you know she was injured in the outside world?" Lola asked. "Because if she was injured in this world, it would mean that she had fought here. But I remember you saying that in a bramble bird world, other bramble birds can't leak their presence. Otherwise, they would be found out. From this, it can be deduced that she hadn't fought here. So her injuries must have been outside." "That's right," Lola confirmed. Gu Qing Shan continued thinking and quickly said, "Obviously, her sharp senses had noticed something, or perhaps she found out some secret information and became suspicious of Triest. That's why she came here. But she was too late. Triest had already succeeded. Of the entire royal family, only you managed to escape. I believe that she only needed to ask around a bit to find out that Her Royal Highness the Princess had gone missing." Gu Qing Shan looked at Lola and quickly said, "Your parents were both replaced by imposters, and you went missing. Frost of the Cold Night Ilya would definitely investigate this. Even the spirit of the holy tree couldn't find your whereabouts. That's why Frost of the Cold Night couldn't find you either. So she had no choice but to come to Triest Collection World to see if she could find you, as well as find out why Triest betrayed the royal family." Gu Qing Shan thought about it from start to finish and nodded. That should be the case. After listening to this string of words, Laura was stunned for a while. She felt that this person in front of her was a bit scary. Fortunately, he was a member of the Justice Iron Fist Club. "No wonder," Lola muttered in a low voice. "No wonder I was able to seal this world so easily. It turns out the protective spells that Triest cast on the outer layer of this world had already been broken by Ilya. How laughable that I thought I was lucky to be able to seal this world. You made it so that Triest couldn't find this world, while she made it so that Triest didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. She did it much better," Gu Qing Shan praised. While saying that, Gu Qing Shan fell into thought again. He suddenly asked, "Frost of the Cold Night Ilya, is she loyal to the royal family?" "She is my godmother. She once swore to the Saint Bramble Tree to protect me." "What about Triest?" "She swore to become stronger, to protect everything that is worth protecting." "How sly. Then what will happen to someone who goes against the Saint Tree's oath?" "The Saint Tree will absorb all of the bramble bird's mana." Gu Qing Shan clapped her hand and said, "That's good enough. It seems Frost of the Cold Night is on our side. If we can find her, our chances of winning against Triest will be much higher." "When?" Lola froze. From the beginning of the calamity until now, she only had a single thought in her mind. That is, the bramble bird royal bloodline cannot be cut off. I have to stay alive. I have to escape. But this man, as soon as he saw a single feather, he was already thinking of turning the tables. Really, Lola couldn't help but feel that she didn't know how to view this at all. At this point, the voice from before finally spoke up. This quest has been concluded. You have done very well, perfectly completing the first official quest. If you can continue to do this well from now on, you will receive a generous reward after completing all quests. And here I thought the reward would be given right now, Gu Qin muttered. The voice continued. The second round. The landing battle is about to begin. Please wait for 1 minute. Gu Qin and Lola both waited. At this point, the war god UI changed a bit. Since she had some free time, Gu Qin stared at the UI, reading the glowing text that kept popping up. Chapter 596. As Gu Qin stared at this line of text on the war god UI, she held her breath. World Apocalypse Online. Even though I've gained the status of kindling, I've finally met it again in this life. As if to express caution and caution, the line of glowing text once again appeared on the war god UI. This time, it had turned blood red in color. Special reminder, the war god system has detected World Apocalypse Online as kindling. Following that, another line of blood red text appeared. Kindling has detected a new member, such as yourself. You have entered the evaluation system of World's Apocalypse Online. Kindling. There's no time to leave this world now. Please pretend that you don't know about this for now. The war god system will analyze the situation further. As soon as Gu Qin finished reading this line of text, before she could do anything, another voice resounded in her ears. The call of the bramblebirds. This was the voice that issued the bramblebird quest after she arrived in this world. Based on your current location, the direction of travel has been determined. It continued. Its tone was exactly the same as when it issued the quest before. Please travel 63 kilometers towards the southeast direction. You will receive the next quest. Gu Qin was a bit surprised. The war god system and Tree's quest alternated. The situation had developed far beyond his expectations. Everything was filled with unknown variables. Behind the seemingly calm state of things, there was the most dangerous situation he had ever been in since his return. And under such circumstances, it was already too late for him to leave. Gu Qin shook her head. Even if he could, he wouldn't do that. To find Shui Heir's whereabouts, he has to follow Tree's quest. Let's go, Gu Qin said. All right. But why do you look a bit nervous? Lola asked. I'm a bit excited, Gu Qin replied. The two of them turned into a blurry figure, leaping over the cliff and headed toward the southeast direction of the frozen wasteland. A few moments later, they arrived at the designated location. In front of Gu Qin and Lola was a land filled with gray fog. Neither sight nor divine sense could penetrate it. Standing at the edge of the mist, Gu Qin asked Lola, have you ever seen a place like this? Yes, this is a world formed by another dimension, Lola said after sensing for a while. Looking at Gu Qin's confused expression, she explained, in some other dimensional spaces, there are many worlds that have never been discovered. These worlds were originally in the mystic zones. Apart from the beings of the mystic zones, the beings of other zones rarely see such worlds. These worlds are all in a gray fog state? No, the gray fog was Tree's spell. It was to stabilize this world and prevent it from clashing with the outside world conflict. Yeah, a world in another world will more or less produce some rejection and conflict. Lola sighed and continued. Who would have thought? Trees hid a mystic zones world within her own world. While they were talking, the call of the bramblebirds came again. The new mission is ready. And now, you are qualified to solve Tree's problems. Within the gray fog, there is a 600-story skyscraper Ho. Following the voice's explanation, Gu Qin was lifted up. The wind whistled as he stood on a piece of sparkling ice and snow, quickly ascending into the sky. A few dozen seconds later, Gu Qin finally stopped at a certain spot in the sky. At this point, he had already broken through the thick layer of clouds and was once again bathed in sunlight. Gu Qingshan looked down. The chunk of ice under his feet was very slippery, even he couldn't move. Fortunately, the chunk of ice was flying very stably. It carried Gu Qingshan into the gray fog. The fog temporarily blocked their vision, but quickly became clear again. Gu Qingshan saw the 600-story skyscraper. From the outside, this skyscraper already looked very strange. There was a part of it that was made entirely of wood, giving it an antique and charming feel. After a few dozen floors, there was another part that was made entirely of metal and alloy, occasionally displaying holographic images that displayed various data and information. There were also some floors that looked like a castle. There were also floors made entirely of bricks, floors made entirely of ice, floors made entirely of gems, floors made entirely of gold, and so on. There were a total of 600 floors. Just the appearance alone was enough to make one dizzy. What a strange skyscraper, Gu Qingshan asked. No, this is a world of its own, Lola replied. She grabbed Gu Qingshan's shoulder tightly. What's the matter? Gu Qingshan asked. I'm a bit afraid of heights, Lola replied. Gu Qingshan hugged her, leapt off the chunk of ice, and landed at the top of the 600-story skyscraper. Standing at the edge of the skyscraper, he looked around. The blue sky stretched as far as the eye could see. The sunlight was perfect. Unfortunately, this was a world of slaughter. The Demon King Order was hiding here. Most likely, a lot of fresh blood had already been used to irrigate the Demon King Order. Let's go a bit further in. We can't just stand at the edge. It's too scary, Lola said. Gu Qingshan then walked to the middle of the building. Lola jumped out of his embrace, climbed onto his shoulder, and sat down comfortably. At this point, the voice came again. Begin quest description. This quest is very simple. When you reach the ground after passing 600 floors, you will have completed this quest. Special note, you cannot fly down from the outside of the skyscraper. That would be considered slacking, and you will not receive Tree's reward. Quest officially begins. The voice went away. A door appeared below Gu Qingshan's feet. A number was written on the door, 600. Seems like I'll have to go down floor by floor. I wonder if there's an elevator for sightseeing. That would be a lot faster. Gu Qingshan silently thought as she held the earth sword in her hand, preparing to open the door. Ting! All of a sudden, a clear chime could be heard. A few lines of glowing white text appeared in front of Gu Qingshan. Congratulations, you have been chosen by heaven to be a pioneer. This is a gift from the Bramblebirds. Please confirm to load the system. Following that, an option popped up. Confirm/reject. This was the same option that Su Xier saw before. Kindling, without any warning, appeared in front of Gu Qingshan. Looking at the option, Gu Qingshan couldn't help but chuckle. This is kindling. Or is this World Apocalypse Online? This method is completely different from the past life. Such a simple method of seduction. Aren't you looking down on me a bit too much? Gu Qingshan muttered. Right at this time, the War God UI that had been silent for a while suddenly displayed a line of bright red text. Attention! World Apocalypse Online. Kindling has descended. The War God system has considered and weighed the pros and cons. Please make your choice at this historic moment. Choice 1. Give up on the quest and choose a place to hide. 2 days later, when the all-out war erupts, the system will transport you away. Your fate will be as Su Xier predicted. A few years later, you'll become a top-tier combatant of the 900 million world layers. Choice 2. Find Su Xier, try to save her before leaving. That way, the dangers that she took from you will return to you. From then on, your fate will once again be shrouded in mystery, and in future battles, you will most likely run into even more dangers. Special reminder, this is a choice that cannot be undone, because the all-out war is about to erupt. As soon as you make your choice, the War God UI will make a corresponding system adjustment based on your choice. Please think about it carefully and make your choice seriously. Gu Qingshan looked at the 2 choices on the UI and fell silent. What should I choose? I should probably choose the second choice. But this choice made Gu Qingshan feel unspeakably frustrated. He couldn't help but sigh. War God system, can you give me another choice? He silently asked in his mind. Ting! A clear chime came. The War God system asked. There are already two choices. The system can guarantee that these are the most suitable choices for the current situation. Let's make another choice since it's the first time I made such a request, Gu Qingshan smiled. What other choice do you want? The system asked. I want to eliminate kindling. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then continued. That's right, this is killing two birds with one stone. As long as I eliminate kindling, Su Share will be safe, and my revenge from my past life will be avenged, the War God system explained. According to the system's strategic assessment, this is the most difficult goal to achieve. Even a moment of carelessness will cause you to die or become demonized. Then, according to your assessment, do I have any hope of achieving this goal? The chances are slim to none. Then there's hope, Gu Qingshan continued. If there's hope, then I'll eliminate it. The system went silent for a few moments, then asked, in truth, you don't need to do this much. Why do you insist on making this choice? Because this is something that I must do. Must do? Yes, saying so, Gu Qingshan sighed. He stared blankly at the empty void of space, seemingly lost in some sort of emotion. At this moment, his gaze seemed to have pierced through time and space, looking back at the past. The people who fought side by side with him, wave after wave. The people who couldn't see any hope, hugging each other and crying in the darkness. The people who followed him all the way until the very end. Although I was an orphan, during the final moments of my past life, I didn't feel lonely at all. Gu Qingshan's tone was low and resolute. Ever since my return, I've always understood that I'm not living for myself alone. There are some things that, when they happen again, you know that you have to face them and overcome them. That's right. I want justice for everyone, saying what he wanted to say. He exhaled deeply and continued. Then, can you give me another option? That way, I'll be able to fight to my heart's content. If you can't give me another option, then I'll throw everything away and fight kindling by myself. I'll do my best. The system silently listened. It went silent for a breath's worth of time. Suddenly, new lines of blood-red text appeared on the War God UI. You are a true man who fights through fire and blood. Your decisions will surely break through the obstruction of fate. Whether it's life or death, you are worthy of this system's title. Your choice has proven that you are worthy of the title of War God. The system has completed the necessary adjustments. From today onwards, Destiny quests will be canceled. In 3 seconds, the quest system will be updated. 3. Done. Chapter 597. The Destiny quest has been canceled. The War God quest is now live. Gu Qingshan looked at the War God UI doubtfully. Are there any differences between the two quests? A new icon lit up at the bottom of the War God UI. This icon was behind War God Skills, War God Thaumaturgy, War God Title, and Doomsday Chronicles, becoming the 5th icon to light up. Interestingly, this icon was different from the others. It depicted Gu Qingshan wielding a sword in battle. Following Gu Qingshan's gaze, a line of text appeared above the icon. A new choice has been created and chosen. Your choice has been accepted by the system. The system's corresponding adjustments have been completed. From now on, wherever your sword points will be the system's quest target. The system will set a different soul points usage state for each War God quest according to the actual situation to assist you. In this War God quest, you've obtained the soul points usage state. Ready? Ready. Whenever you gain a certain amount of soul points, you can choose a skill to double the power of your next attack. After you've used Ready once, the skill's power will return to normal. Description: Ready consumes a certain amount of soul points. The stronger the skill, the more soul points it consumes. Special note: Ready can be stacked. Reading the description of Ready, Gu Qingshan thought for a bit and understood. He couldn't help but silently praise it. This really is a killer move. If I'm constantly in the Ready state, I'll be able to multiply the power of a certain skill. But the key point is that as I gain more soul points, this multiplying effect can be stacked. This way, the power of a certain skill that I choose will gradually become more and more terrifying. The only unfortunate thing is that this attack can only be used once before the skill returns to normal. While Gu Qingshan was thinking, the War God quest icon at the bottom of the UI glowed. The first War God quest has appeared. This was a quest created according to Gu Qing Shan's own will. Lines of blood-red text appeared on the War God UI. This time's War God quest's objective is to eliminate kindling. For this mission, the system has provided the following mission description. This is the first time you've faced the Demon King Order since your rebirth. Fortunately, it hasn't been fully born yet. World's Apocalypse Online is still in its kindling state. At this time, it is at its weakest and most primitive state, and it is yet to be activated. It needs to gather enough soul power to completely ignite its kindling and level up. This is World's Apocalypse Online. Kindling. Due to your outstanding performance in the first act, kindling will soon find you. It needs you to collect soul energy for it. What strategy do you have to deal with kindling? Gu Qing Shan asked. Adapt to the situation. The system will issue consecutive missions for Tinder based on its specific situation to complete the final mission objective. Please remember, the purpose of the fire seed is to collect soul energy. We must not let it collect enough soul energy. Gu Qing Shan couldn't help but ask, if kindling gathers enough soul points, what will happen? Kindling will level up. World's Apocalypse Online. Origin will officially launch. The 30 million world layers around a bowl will be enveloped by World's Apocalypse Online. Origin. Countless worlds will be forced to accept its enslavement. Origin? What's that? Just like your past life, Gu Qing Shan squinted his eyes. He thought for a bit and said, Origin, the living beings within can become stronger by killing the demons, but they will never be able to reach a certain level of strength. Is that right? No, it's actually the demons who kill living beings to level up, but at the same time, living beings will be enslaved by the Demon King Order, unable to reach a certain level of strength to fight against the demons. If that's the case, it'll be a one-sided massacre. Some of the demons might die at the start, but they'll be the ones to win in the end. Gu Qing Shan closed his eyes and thought for a bit, then said, I understand. The War God system continued. We will use a series of quests to continuously fight against kindling until we finally kill it. This is this time's War God quest. After completing the War God quest, you'll receive a gift from the system. What kind of gift? A secret. Gu Qing Shan smiled. He suddenly asked, War God system, you know so many things and have so many secrets. Where did you come from? The system replied, when a living being is too weak, the more they know, the more dangerous it will be for them. Gu Qing Shan agreed with this. He didn't ask any further. Gu Qing Shan finally retracted his gaze and looked at the chat window in front of him. Congratulations, you've been chosen by heaven to be the pioneer. This is a gift from the Bramblebirds. Please confirm to load the system. Confirm/reject, because he didn't receive any response from Gu Qing Shan. The chat window was still hovering there. Perhaps because he waited for too long, a new line of glowing text appeared. Frowny face in 15 seconds. The kindling system will be automatically loaded. Reading this line of glowing text, Gu Qing Shan understood. In the past life, the world he came into contact with was World's Apocalypse Online, Origin. Kindling was the original program of Origin. In order to upgrade it to Origin, it had come on my side. Gu Qing Shan held his sword tightly. Without hesitation, he said, I reject. A new line of glowing white text appeared. Frowny face, please state your reason for rejecting. Gu Qing Shan was stunned. Before he could react, another line of glowing text appeared. From now on, if you refuse to load the kindling system without any reason, you will not receive any rewards from the Bramblebirds. Because of that, please state your reason for rejecting. Gu Qing Shan scowled. He originally wanted to say no reason, but he couldn't. This kindling seems to have quite the temper. Was it always like this, or did someone piss it off? Gu Qing Shan naturally didn't know that Su Cher had used no reason to reject kindling. That was why kindling had changed its strategy. And now, Gu Qing Shan had to find a reason to reject it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to continue with the Bramblebirds' missions. What kind of reason should I find? After a bit of hesitation, Gu Qing Shan finally came up with an official reason. Staring at the glowing text in front of him, he answered with a serious expression. I can't read. The white text on the screen trembled. This reason seemed to cause more damage than no reason. At this point, The war god UI suddenly lit up. A line of glowing text appeared on it. You can load, kindling, Gu Qing Shan hesitantly said. It will use, dash. That's fine as long as you don't give it soul points. The war god UI continued. If you don't load kindling, it will come up with countless ways to deal with you. If I load it, it won't deal with me? Over 100 million people have carried it. So once you accept it, it will no longer pay attention to you. Gu Qing Shan asked. Will it affect you? It's still a newborn. I'm not afraid of it. Hearing such a firm answer from the war god UI, Gu Qing Shan also straightened his back. He hurriedly shouted at the glowing white text in the air. Wait a minute. Just as the densely packed, white words were about to retreat, they were pulled back by his shout. All the white text disappeared, replaced by a large question mark in the air. Gu Qing Shan questioned it. What kind of attitude is that? You're running away because I can't read? The question mark trembled. Obviously, it had never been in such a situation before. Kindling didn't know how to react. Gu Qing Shan helplessly asked, Don't you know how to use voice? The question mark suddenly disappeared. A voice resounded. Congratulations, you've been chosen by heaven to be the pioneer. This is a gift from the Bramblebirds. Please confirm to load the system. Confirm. Following Gu Qing Shan's choice, something seemed to have happened. He stared closely at the void of space in front of him. The war god UI turned into a transparent blue screen and shrunk in size. A bright red UI appeared next to it. This was an extremely simple, or perhaps even crude UI. It couldn't even compare to World's Apocalypse Online, Origin in the past life. This meant that the true World's Apocalypse Online hadn't been fully activated yet. A line of text appeared on the war god UI. Chapter 598. A line of text appeared on the war god UI. It's here, but it doesn't know I'm here, so you need to act as if it's the only one here. Gu Qing Shan quickly skimmed through and silently replied in his mind. Don't worry, I can still do that. He stared at the void of space in front of him. The war god UI was a cold light blue, while the kindling UI was a thick blood red. Two systems appeared on his body at the same time. This was something he had never experienced before in his 2 lives. Even more miraculously, one of the systems didn't know about the other's existence. As time passed, the text on the war god UI slowly faded away. A line of text appeared on the kindling UI. World Apocalypse Online. Kindling has been successfully loaded. Congratulations, you have officially become a forerunner. Gu Qing Shan pretended not to see it and excitedly asked, So many words, what are you saying? The kindling UI. It was now that he realized he made a mistake. Another line of text appeared on the war god UI. Your expression is a bit exaggerated. Gu Qing Shan cleared his throat, realizing that he used too much force and deviated from the norm. His expression relaxed a bit. That's right, he had 2 systems on him, and he still had to kill one of them. Gu Qing Shan was feeling a bit nervous. Gu Qing Shan lowered his voice and asked the kindling, Just now you said that I'm a forerunner chosen by God. Then what use do you have for me? Lines of text quickly appeared on the kindling UI. It paused stiffly for a moment, and all the words retracted. Kindling, just remembered, this person can't read. Very quickly, a voice replaced the text. From this moment onwards, kindling will replace Triest and personally issue you quests. Then, can I still get a reward? Gu Qing Shan appeared worried. Of course you can. Only the most excellent participants will be guided by the system to complete quests. You will receive a reward that far surpasses everyone else. Kindling replied. Liar, most people already carry you. Gu Qing Shan silently thought. He asked, What should I do? I came here to get a reward in the first place. Next, you only need to collect soul power during the mission. You can use soul power to exchange for the corresponding reward from the system, Kindling said. Is that so? What are the rewards? Gu Qing Shan asked. The interface of the Tinder changed. Many dazzling rewards appeared on the interface. Because he was a swordsman, many swords first appeared on the interface. Even with Gu Qing Shan's strong willpower, her heart still palpitated when she saw it. His gaze fell on a few of the swords, and he did not look away for a moment. He recognized it. It was something from a bull's resort, Infinity World's town. Most of these swords belonged to that shop that specialized in selling weapons. Seems like Abris already belongs to Triest. Gu Qingshan sighed. He continued to adjust the interface and looked back. It really had everything. Gu Qingshan not only saw the fairy's crystal flower, but also the demon god that could be exchanged for with soul power. There were even all kinds of extremely powerful secret cultivation methods. Gu Qingshan could not help but think about them. But all of these rare items were extremely expensive. In order to exchange for these rewards, one would have to pay an astronomical amount of soul points. This was only natural. Even combatants like Iron Fist, Bali, and Meow couldn't find the fairy's crystal flower, while the old man from the Spire Keeper Association clung on to Bali's leg as soon as he got off the ship, wanting to smell if it was the fairy's crystal flower. They were all powerful entities, but they couldn't even get their hands on such precious items. Because of that, there were a lot of things on Kindling's UI that could easily cause a storm of blood if taken out, because these were all things that people yearned for even in their dreams. If it was a newcomer who didn't know anything, they would definitely do everything in their power to collect soul points in order to obtain these precious items. Some people would struggle and hesitate, but more people would go on a rampage to collect enough soul points to exchange for Kindling's treasures. Gu Qingshan's heart tightened. Kindling had so many precious treasures. Those who entered would have already fallen into a frenzy of killing each other. Kindling's total amount of soul points was quickly increasing. How do I collect soul points? Gu Qingshan quickly asked. Kindling answered, when a living being dies, their soul points will automatically be collected by you. Die? Yes. As the pioneer of heaven, you will obtain great rewards through slaughter. So that's how it is. Kindling continued. I trust that this is something that you're very familiar with. How do you know? I can sense it. The number of living beings that have died at your hands far exceeds the number of bloodthirsty true demons. You are a very outstanding seeded player. You have great potential. Please follow me to conquer the infinite worlds and trample over the 900 million outer worlds. Gu Qingshan was surprised. That's right. I've fought for so long. I've killed without fear. Whether it's the cultivation world, Shenwu world, or even Huangquan, as long as I act, I've never held back. In the yellow springs of the underworld, trillions of dead people were directly killed by him. Seems like Kindling can sense that my hands are stained with the blood of trillions of living beings. That's why it's telling me so much. It feels like I'm an excellent candidate to be demonized. At this point, Kindling continued. A new quest has been issued. Within the 600-story skyscraper below your feet, there are still countless inferior, backward, and useless people who wish to obtain the Bramblebird's reward, but are unable to move forward at this stage. Go, kill them all, and bring back soul points. With soul points, you can exchange them for rewards from me at any time. After saying so, Kindling's voice disappeared. At the same time, the War God UI lit up. This is quite interesting. A blue UI and a red UI were alternately communicating with Gu Qingshan. What do you plan to do? The War God UI asked. Gu Qingshan answered without hesitation. If I don't give it soul points, will it be able to steal them from me? With me here, it won't be able to. Then there's no problem. Following this, we'll kill those who need to be killed, save those who need to be saved. In short, we won't let Kindling accumulate any soul points. As soon as he said so, lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. This War God quest is a chain quest. The chain quest has been prepared. You must complete all the quests and stop Kindling from leveling up in order to receive the final reward. First quest details. The system has marked another demonized candidate for you. He is currently on the 239th floor. What is he doing? He's doing what Kindling requested. Gu Qingshan nodded. That person must be looking for a chance to kill. Kill him, then reach the surface. The first quest will be completed. Please name this mission. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised, thought for a bit, then said, Flying Bird. The War God UI immediately replied. The first quest, Flying Bird, has been issued. The quest has been assigned. The lines of glowing text on the War God UI also faded away. The void of space was cleared. Both systems went silent. Gu Qingshan drew her sword and looked at the door. This is the moment of battle. As Gu Qingshan was about to activate her sword seal to open the door, Lola stopped her. "What's the matter?" Gu Qing Shan asked. "This is for you," Lola said. She gave Gu Qing Shan a bronze monocular. She had used this monocular once before. "Thank you." Gu Qing Shan received the monocular. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. Long lens, wondrous item. Function: perform various levels of X-ray vision according to your will. Attention: any treasure that comes from the mystic zones will automatically receive the title of wondrous item. Above the miraculous items are the epic items. The rarer treasures are called the legendary items. Although the description of this monocular was very simple, Gu Qingshan was already shocked. He weighed the monocular in his hand. A heavy, cold feeling came from his hand. Raising the monocular, Gu Qingshan looked at the door. Chapter 599. Through the monocular, Gu Qingshan saw the situation inside the door. Snakes. A snake nest. As far as Gu Qingshan could see, there was nothing but a sea of intertwining snakes. The number of snakes piled up in the room was enough to make anyone's scalp go numb. Strangely, these snakes seemed to be sentient. They were coiled together, craning their necks as they stared coldly at the door. As if waiting for the door to open, they would rush out and swallow anyone who tried to enter. These snakes were quite unique. Various elemental powers appeared on their bodies. Ice, fire, lightning, wind, darkness, poison. The various elemental powers weaved together to create a chaotic whirlpool of power. As soon as the door opened, the intruder would be sucked into the whirlpool. If the intruder wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't be able to escape from being devoured by the snakes. This would be a very troublesome battle. Gu Qingshan extended the monocular a bit. The room on the next floor appeared in the monocular. A group of wraiths were fighting over a corpse. They were fighting each other without showing any signs of weakness. The corpse was half-eaten, obviously a young human who participated in the call of the bramblebirds. Through this room, Gu Qingshan saw another room full of running flaming bulls. His vision went from the 600th floor all the way to the 550th floor. There were a few real demons here, chasing after two men and a woman. While running, they were toying with each other. The difference in strength between them was too great. If the two men and woman didn't have a holy silver cross in their hands, they would have already been killed by the demons. But at this rate, the power of the cross would run out sooner or later. After a while, they would be killed by the demons, and their soul points would be used up by kindling. "This isn't Tree's little problem. This is mine," Gu Qingshan muttered. Recalling the War God UI quest, Gu Qingshan adjusted the monocular to look through a few hundred floors to the 239th floor. There was a demonized person on this floor, only to see sand moving back and forth in the room like a tidal wave. The sand was burning bright red, as if it contained intense heat that caused the air around it to twist. Other than that, there seemed to be nothing else. However, through the binoculars, Gu Qingshan saw a man lurking in the deepest part of the quicksand. That person was hugging a snow-white longsword, standing motionlessly at the bottom of the quicksand. Coincidentally, a door opened above the desert. A young man holding a scimitar jumped out from the door. "Huh, I've finally advanced another level." He laughed. Without a sound, a glimmer thinner than silk brushed past his body. The young man's body stiffened. He fell headfirst into the desert. His body split into two in midair. Zung! A flying sword drilled back into the desert and fell into the hands of the person hiding in the sand. The man put away his flying sword, closed his eyes, and once again entered a state where he stopped breathing. Gu Qingshan finally noticed that there was a wooden door under this sword cultivator's feet. On the wooden door was a row of numbers, 238. As it turned out, this person's location was the door to the next level. This person quietly hid here, not letting anyone who wanted to pass through this place go. "This is an excellent hitman," Gu Qingshan silently commented. "System, the person who was killed by the demonized, didn't he carry kindling?" he asked. The War God system replied. "Those who are too weak, kindling, will only treat them as food." "Got it, that's true. Even now, he still hasn't passed this level's test, so he's a bit weak." Gu Qingshan's gaze didn't stay here for too long. Holding the binoculars, he scanned through the 600 floors one by one. Bone-burying swamp, forest of lost souls, lava pool, demon town. The scenes of every room were shown through the binoculars, allowing Gu Qingshan to see them. On some floors, Gu Qingshan saw quite a few people still struggling. After all, there were quite a few people in the 900 million world layers who answered the call of the bramblebirds. Gu Qingshan just saw a person being eaten alive by a monster. Unfortunately, that was the 97th floor, too far away for Gu Qingshan to make it in time to save him. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, will the soul points of all the people who died in this skyscraper be absorbed by kindling? Yes, kindling will absorb the soul points of all the dead in this world. The war god system answered. I'm in a hurry, so can I not save them? You can choose not to save them, but after kindling devours everyone in this 600-floor skyscraper, the chance of it evolving into origin will greatly increase. Gu Qingshan said nothing else. Raising the binoculars, he scanned through all 600 floors, then returned to the 550th floor. The 2 men and 1 woman who were running away were in grave danger. The demons were about to break through the Silver Cross's protection. Gu Qingshan put the binoculars down and silently sighed. If that's the case, he still has to save everyone, but he doesn't have that much time. Why do you look so disappointed? Is my binoculars not working? Lola asked. Gu Qingshan shook his head and gave the binoculars back to Lola. I just couldn't find my girlfriend. That's really bad news, Lola said sympathetically. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit. If I save these people trapped in this skyscraper, I'll be stuck here for a very long time. I can't ignore them either. If kindling absorbs their soul points, its chance of evolving will greatly increase. While he was hesitating, Gu Qingshan accidentally saw the notification on the War God UI. The current quest was still their frowny face, the first quest. Flying Bird has been released. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. A flash of inspiration came to him. At first, he thought that the 600th floor would be very complicated, and that only Flying Bird would be able to ignore everything and come and go as it pleased. So he casually came up with his quest name. But now, he really has to thank this name. He drew the 6 paths great mountain sword and lightly cut a square hole in the ground. This formed a tunnel, the tunnel leading to the 600th floor. Why aren't you going in even though the door is open? Lola asked. Just an experiment. Gu Qingshan stared at the hole in the ground and replied, your sword is quite good. A cold weapon that can easily cut through the world barrier is quite rare. Lola was intrigued. Gu Qingshan didn't answer and silently sighed in relief. If she was trapped by the Lord of Blood's soul-specific defense again like last time, it would have been quite troublesome. At the time, Gu Qingshan was pretending to be asleep, so she was perfectly caught off guard and fell for it. Since she was already caught off guard, it wouldn't be easy to break through. Fortunately, the 6 paths Great Mountain Sword's Lawbreaker property worked this time and directly cut a hole in the 600th floor's world barrier. Just like that, Gu Qingshan's plan could be carried out. SSSS. The sound of hissing could be heard from a hole that Gu Qingshan just made. In the snake nest, the chaos elemental snakes became restless. What's that sound? What's inside? Lola asked. She couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. Not suitable for children, Gu Qingshan replied. That's amazing. Lola excitedly raised her monocular to take a look. Gu Qingshan put down the monocular. No need to look, why? It's actually just a bunch of cute kids saying so. Gu Qingshan changed War God title to Ace Hitman. Title: Ace Assassin. Equipping this title grants you the skill Harvest Advanced. Harvest Advanced whenever you kill an opponent in one hit. The spirit energy used for that hit will be fully replenished. This way, you'll have an ample supply of spirit energy. Gu Qingshan tapped her inventory bag again. A set of battle armor riddled with scars flew out. A full set of UG general armor. In the past, many people had voiced their doubts. Why did they have to make the general's armor such an eye-catching color? This way, the general's safety on the battlefield would be a huge issue. At the time, 100 Flowers Fairy only replied with a single sentence to shut everyone up. We are cultivators. Only cultivators who lead the charge are qualified to wear the general's armor. The armor abruptly scattered, each part swimming around Gu Qingshan's body like sentient fishes. This set of UG general armor consisted of a faceplate, breastplate, pauldrons, arm guards, gauntlets, belt, knee pads, combat boots, and other parts. Every part looked extremely simple, without any unnecessary decorations, except for the complex and profound runes that were etched all over. Although the armor was golden, it didn't look ostentatious on Gu Qingshan at all. Instead, it gave off a faint sense of dignity and vicissitudes. Lola observed his armor and muttered, "What a beautiful set of toys. That's right, this armor is too shabby. Even more so compared to your sword." Lola was very picky. "I'll just make do with it." Saying so, Gu Qingshan put Lola down from his shoulder and placed her in front of his chest. He then took out a long rope and began to tie himself and Lola together. "What are you doing?" Lola was cautious. "This is to hold you in place so that we won't get separated during the intense battle." "Don't worry, I've already sworn that I'll bring you out," Gu Qingshan told him. His movements were quick, and the rope quickly tied the two of them up. Gu Qingshan then quickly tied the knot and walked a few steps to test the rope stability. "It's perfectly secured. This way, there's no need to worry about Lola falling down." He nodded in satisfaction. "I feel like you're hiding something from me," Lola doubtfully asked. "What's there to hide?" Gu Qingshan laughed it off and quickly walked to the edge of the 600-story building. "I'm just going to be a flying bird." He put the silver mask on his face and finished his final preparations. Lola slowly realized something and hurriedly said, "Wait a minute, you know I'm afraid of heights. How about we? ARGH. Gu Qingshan, I hate you." Following Lola's screams, Gu Qingshan abruptly jumped out of the building. Passing through the dark clouds, they quickly descended along with the howling snowstorm. In the blink of an eye, Gu Qingshan had already passed a few dozen floors. This way, he doesn't need to go down floor by floor, saving a lot of time. Almost immediately, lines of text appeared on the kindling UI. This line of text quickly turned into a voice message. "Please return to the roof immediately. Please return to the roof immediately. You cannot jump down from the building. You won't receive Tree's reward that way." "Reward? I don't need a reward," Gu Qingshan replied. "But if you jump down like that, you won't get any soul points." Kindling continued. "Please take this seriously. Without soul points, you won't get anything." "No soul points." Gu Qingshan didn't answer for a while. A sword suddenly appeared in his hand. The Six Paths Great Mountain Sword. 550th floor. Right here. Gu Qingshan shouted in a low voice. The sword moved. Secret art, water flow severance. A vast sword phantom manifested and shot towards the outer wall of the skyscraper. Dong 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 dong. Following a thunderous explosion, a large hole was opened on the outer wall of the 550th floor. The snowstorm howled as it went in. Gu Qingshan let go of the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword and drew the heavy earth sword. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Almost at the same time, several ferocious howls resounded from this floor. Following that, a heavy thud could be heard, followed by cries of joy. In just a breath's worth of time, Gu Qingshan had once again appeared outside the skyscraper. He continued to descend. The blood on the sword scattered into the snowstorm. Gu Qingshan held the sword in one hand, holding the trembling Lola tightly with the other. Chapter 600. The wind was freezing. Gu Qingshan brought Lola along as they flew down the outer wall of the 600-story skyscraper. They were falling much faster than the snowflakes. Under normal circumstances, Gu Qingshan would pass through a large number of floors and fall straight down. This saved a lot of time. Occasionally, he would act. After using the monocular, he was able to evaluate every single battle on the 600-story skyscraper. As for the particularly cruel monsters, he would personally act and kill them. His flying sword broke through the outer wall of the skyscraper, went inside, then quickly came back out. Wearing the UG general armor, and wielding the 86,370,000 tons Earth Sword, Gu Qingshan could easily end a battle with a single full-powered strike. After all, this place was only for young people below 30 years old. And among these people, Gu Qingshan was the strongest. A few minutes later, Gu Qingshan reached the 239th floor. There was a demonized person on this floor. Gu Qingshan took a deep breath and swung the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword with all her might. Water flow severance. Boom! A large hole was opened in the wall. Go, Gu Qingshan said. The Chaoyin sword flew out and went straight into the desert. Gu Qingshan activated her hand seal. Secret Art Torrent. Tiny sword phantoms converged into a stream, turning into an unstoppable raging river that rushed out from the surface of the desert. Every grain of sand in the desert was carried by the sword phantoms and flowed back up to the ceiling. The demonized person couldn't hide anymore and swung his sword to cut off the sword phantoms. He flew out and hovered in the air, staring coldly at Gu Qingshan. This was a cultivator from a cultivation world, as well as an excellent hitman. He stared at the Chaoyin sword that flew back and coldly spoke. So you're also a sword cultivator? I'm a sword cultivator. You're not, Gu Qingshan replied. The man patted the sword in his hand and mocked. Are you blind? I can see very clearly. You're nothing but a coward hiding in the desert, Gu Qingshan replied. You're courting death. That person was furious. He unsheathed his long sword and was about to fly forward and kill this person who had slandered him. Suddenly, a sword appeared in his line of sight. It was a well-timed strike. When he was enraged and was about to move, the sword blocked his path forward. In the next instant, his figure had already moved. He was unable to continue retreating and could only meet this sword strike head-on. That person understood. So it's the Heart Sword School that specializes in scheming, he sneered. Since he knew that the other party was deliberately provoking him and plotting to deal with him, he quickly calmed down. He was a first-rate assassin, so it was necessary for him to regain his composure. To deal with a Heart Sword style sword cultivator, it was best to suppress the opponent with quick attacks. Once the Heart Sword style sword cultivator didn't have enough time to scheme, it would be easier to win. In the blink of an eye, the experienced assassin made a decision. He gripped his long sword and thrust it into the wind. Immediately, 49 sword lights spread out and instantly streaked across the sky, slashing towards Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan's pupils dilated as she hurriedly pulled her sword back to block. Although this wasn't a sword array, each of these 49 sword lights was stronger than the last. With such power, it must be an extremely powerful secret art. Even though the opponent was an assassin, he didn't care about caution at all and used his ultimate attack right from the start. The Chaoyin sword turned into blurred images and knocked the 49 sword lights away. In a split second, the assassin arrived. Taking advantage of the moment when Gu Qingshan blocked the 49 sword lights, the assassin found a gap and attacked again. Die, he shouted. Gu Qingshan couldn't pull her sword back in time, so she could only use her other hand to grab the earth sword to block. Key. As the two swords clashed, an ear-splitting sound rang out. The assassin's lips curled into a smile. You think you'll be fine as long as you block it? 6 sword phantoms pierced through the area where the two swords clashed, heading straight for Gu Qingshan. One of Gu Qingshan's swords had already stopped. The other had just blocked the opponent, so she had no choice but to summon the 6 Paths Great Mountain Sword from the void of space, manifesting layers upon layers of black sword images. Secret Art Drawn Shadow. The sword images bloomed in the air, knocking the 6 sword phantoms away. This is the moment. Taking that chance, the assassin abruptly spat out a blue light from his mouth. This was his true killing move. Buzzing sound, piercing formation, flying needle, 3 secret arts in a row, capable of bringing the opponent to their death. Especially the last flying needle, capable of breaking through layers of defense and directly killing the enemy. This was the assassin's sword phantoms that he had been accumulating for several years, the strongest assassination secret art. The scattered, drawn shadow, sword phantoms alone couldn't stop this attack. As Gu Qingshan stared closely at the blue light, he noticed how dangerous it was. He didn't think this assassin's swordsmanship would be this high, especially the assassin's secret art. One strike after another, whether it's the connection or the coordination, they've all reached a perfect level. Such a killing move is truly worthy of admiration. So Gu Qingshan had no choice but to be a bit more serious. Divine skill, shadow shift. The blue light switched places with him in the blink of an eye and flew through the air. Gu Qingshan's body leaned forward and unleashed a very normal strike towards the assassin. The assassin was surprised. How did he manage to dodge such a meticulously executed killing move? While he was thinking, Gu Qingshan's attack had already arrived. But this level of swordsmanship was something that the assassin could easily stop. But the assassin didn't let his guard down and used all his strength to parry. Key. The two swords clashed again. The assassin was about to unleash another secret art. Wait a minute. In the assassin's vision, the sword cultivator wearing a light golden armor didn't even bother to look at him after unleashing that strike and flew downwards. He ran away in the middle of the fight? Is he afraid? While the assassin was in disbelief, a faint sword phantom appeared from behind him and cut off his head. Secret art. Swallow returns. Lola hid in Gu Qingshan's chest and hugged him tightly. After a few minutes of falling, she had gotten used to it a bit. Are you really a heart sword type sword cultivator? She loudly asked. What do you mean by type? Judging an opponent's swordsmanship based on the style of a school is easy to miss the truth, Gu Qingshan casually replied. In his vision, two lines of text appeared on the blue and red UI at the same time. Obtained soul points. 1700. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. That person just now was so weak. How did he get so much soul points? He silently asked the war god UI. I estimate that with his strength, he should be able to give me around 700 soul points. Why so much? Because the soul points he obtained from killing people were all taken by you, the war god UI replied. Gu Qingshan was surprised. They continued to fall. 7 minutes. Gu Qingshan landed. Other than the demonized, no one else had died. But quite a few people who fell into danger were saved by Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan untied the rope. Lola landed and looked at him begrudgingly. Do you always ignore a lady's feelings? She angrily questioned him. That was the softest rope, made from 1,000-year spirit silk, so it probably didn't hurt you, Gu Qingshan explained. What hurt me was my soul, Lola replied. After today, your soul will become even stronger, Gu Qingshan told her. Lola angrily turned her head away. She was still hugging Gu Qingshan without letting go. Gu Qingshan's gaze turned to the war god UI. A line of glowing text appeared. You've successfully collected 1,000 soul points, triggering the first strength accumulation. Please select the skill you want to use. Accumulation. Description. After a skill has been accumulated, the power of the attack will be doubled. This effect can only be used once. Gu Qingshan began to consider the skill he wanted to use accumulation on. Unfortunately, accumulation only works on skills. If accumulation could be used on thaumaturgies, he would definitely use it on severance once. From the looks of it, there wasn't much to think about. I choose Tai Sword Array. Are you sure? I'm sure. The system is locked onto this skill. The next time you use it, the power of the attack will be doubled. Reading this line of glowing text, Gu Qingshan felt a bit more confident. Tai Sword Array was his strongest sword technique. If he could continue to strengthen it, the power it contained would surely reach a terrifying level. The battle this time was too dangerous, so Gu Qingshan needed such a trump card. What about the quest? Gu Qingshan continued to ask. The system replied, War God Chain Quest, Flying Bird completed. We will continue to wait for Kindling's reaction, then analyze the quest it issues to come up with a War God Chain quest specifically to counter it. After reading that, Gu Qingshan's gaze fell onto Kindling's UI again. The two UIs were side by side, so there was no need to switch between them, which was quite convenient. A voice came. You've reached the surface, you've completed the quest, but you won't receive any rewards, Gu Qingshan replied. It's fine, I'm not interested in Tree's rewards. I need a lot of soul points to exchange for something good with you. Kindling went silent. What Gu Qingshan said was in line with its benefits, because it needed soul points. Even though Gu Qing-shan killed the hitman just now, the amount of soul points Gu Qing-shan received far exceeded that of the hitman. Because the assassin was among those who had died, the total amount of soul power had increased by a large margin. As long as the soul points increased, Kindling silently agreed. As for that person's life, it didn't care at all. However, there was another important issue. Gu Qing-shan saved a lot of people. Originally, there were a lot of living beings in the entire 600-story skyscraper that contained a lot of soul points. As long as these living beings died, Kindling would be able to directly absorb their soul points. But when Gu Qing-shan acted, these soul points were lost. Chapter 601. Gu Qing-shan put Lola back on his shoulder. As Lola looked up at the 600-story building, she couldn't help but shiver. She never thought that she would fall from such a high place. The intense battles were almost all easily finished in 2 or 3 moves. If someone else was watching, they would think that Gu Qing-shan won easily. But Lola had received the best combat education since she was a child, so she had developed a keen eye. She understood how dangerous it was. There were times when Gu Qing-shan's life was hanging by a thread. But this was his true strength. While his life was hanging by a thread, Gu Qing-shan would make sure that the enemy died first. Sighing, Lola lightly stroked Gu Qing-shan's shoulder. This armor was already damaged to begin with, and after the intense battle just now, it was now full of holes. There were even deep scratches that almost pierced through the armor. This armor, it's really bad. Gu Qing-shan didn't know what Lola was thinking. He stared at the Kindling UI. Since I've completed this quest, please issue the next one, he said. A few moments later, Kindling's voice came again. Quest preparation has been completed. What follows is a long journey. You will have to cross the entire frozen wasteland to reach the next quest. Cross the frozen wasteland? Gu Qing-shan muttered. Just now, when he was standing on the 600-story building, he looked down at the frozen wasteland. The frozen wasteland was endless. Even when he was standing on the 600-story building, he still couldn't see the end of it. This journey will be a long and arduous one. I wonder if Su Cher is still on the frozen wasteland. That silly girl, I wonder how she's doing right now. Gu Qing-shan gripped his sword tightly. Let's go, he told Lola. Yes. Lola regained her senses and hurriedly replied. Gu Qing-shan slightly lowered her body. Lola immediately shouted, "What are you doing?" "Fly, it's faster," Gu Qing-shan said. "Stop flying, I just touched the ground," Lola complained. Gu Qing-shan tapped her inventory bag and took out an airship. The flying boat was marked with a flamboyant Shan character. This was a proud work refined by Qin Shaolu. As long as one was willing to pay the spirit stones, its speed would be much faster than ordinary flying boats. There was a small and exquisite cabin on the flying boat. Lola jumped up to take a look. She closed the cabin from the inside, and the spirit-gathering formation on the flying boat immediately began to operate. The cabin of the ship was sealed and nourished by spiritual energy. There were also a few plates of snacks and a pot of spirit tea boiling on the stove. It was very comfortable to sit in the cabin, and one couldn't see what altitude they were at. Wisps of spiritual energy emerged and were absorbed into Lola's skin. Lola quietly sensed it for a moment and smiled. Laura opened the cabin door and jumped down from the airship. "That's right. Can we go now?" Gu Qing-shan asked. Lola hesitantly asked, "If that's the case, does that count as cheating?" "Probably." "Then, we're here to cheat. If that's what you said." Lola turned her little satchel around and rummaged through it. Gu Qing-shan could only wait. "I got it. We'll use this." Lola took out a whistle and gave it to Gu Qing-shan. "What is this?" Gu Qing-shan asked. "A purgatory demon mount summoning whistle. My father exchanged a world origin seed for this mount. Lola highly recommended it. This is faster than your airship, and it's running on the ground. I'll be assured, why don't you use it?" "It's too big for my size. I need someone to ride it." Lola glared at him. Gu Qing-shan then put the whistle to his mouth and blew. As soon as the whistle sounded, a black horse appeared in front of them. "The wings of purgatory is at your service. I hope I didn't scare you." It spoke in a low voice. Gu Qing-shan carried Lola and jumped onto the horse's back. Do you know how to ride it? Lola saw how nervous he was and asked. I just learned yesterday, Gu Qingshan replied. The frozen wasteland went silent. Lola stared at him in disbelief. You don't even know how to ride a horse, and your girlfriend doesn't mind? She's teaching me. Gu Qingshan helplessly replied. That's right. When he first entered Infinity World's town, he had only just learned how to ride a horse, so he was a bit nervous. It's fine. I know how to run by myself, the black horse said. Gu Qingshan sighed in relief and pointed towards the depths of the frozen wasteland. We're going in that direction. There might be enemies along the way. So please be careful. I only have one question. Are you in a hurry? Or are you just going for a stroll? The black horse asked. Gu Qingshan replied. We're in a hurry, so please. Boom! The black horse turned into a gust of wind and disappeared. In just a few moments, it had already turned into a black dot on the horizon. On another side, deep within the frozen wasteland, within the howling blizzard, Su Cher was moving forward alone. At a certain point, she noticed that she was about to reach the end of the frozen wasteland. At the far end of her vision, the frozen wasteland had already disappeared, replaced by a grand structure. Although she didn't know what it was, Su Cher quickened her pace. With her constitution, the frozen wasteland was too cold. More importantly, she only had 11 soul points left, so she wouldn't be able to resist the invasion of kindling. But after taking just a few steps, Su Cher stopped. She cautiously held her scepter in front of her and stared straight ahead. Within the swirling snow, several carriages appeared from afar. There were a total of 7 carriages, each pulled by 5 horses, all of them speeding towards Su Cher's direction. They quickly arrived. Without much effort, the carriages stopped in front of Su Cher. Dozens of people with weapons in their hands looked at her. This chick isn't bad, one of them muttered. Another followed up. She's quite pretty, and she's only just arrived at the frozen wasteland. So she's probably quite weak. We can easily take her down, someone warned them. Don't cause unnecessary trouble. Kindling. His special mission is still waiting for us. We can still complete the mission with her. Someone stared at Su Cher and protested. Su Cher's heart tensed up. With her battle instincts, she could tell that these people weren't to be trifled with. And she didn't have much soul points left. If she fought them, it would be hard to tell what would happen to her. At this point, someone else spoke up. That's a good idea. The girl is also quite nice. But if the mission goes wrong because of her, boss will skin you alive. As soon as boss was mentioned, everyone stopped thinking. They all turned to look at a certain carriage. A 2-meter-tall soldier stepped down from that carriage. He was wearing heavy armor, with a battle hammer made of pure metal on his shoulder. The icy ground cracked as he stomped on it. As soon as he appeared, all the other voices disappeared, as if everyone was naturally afraid of him. Obviously, he was boss. Little girl, have you ever seen a guy who wears golden armor, uses a sword, and carries a little girl with him? A rough voice came from the gap in his helmet. He was asking Su Cher. Su Cher thought for a bit and shook her head. I've never seen such a person on my way here. The 2-meter-tall soldier looked behind him. Boss, she's telling the truth, someone loudly called out. The soldier seemed a bit disappointed. Fine. Seems like we won't be able to get any more information for now. Let's keep going. He turned around and returned to the carriage. Boss, this girl. Someone tried asking. Let's get down to business first. None of you are allowed to stop me from completing kindling a special mission. Otherwise, I'll use your brains to drink, got it? Yes. Everyone answered in a loud voice. They all sat down on the carriage and prepared to leave. Su Cher stepped aside. She observed everyone's expressions. Occasionally, there would still be people who couldn't help but stare at her with lust and greed, but no one dared to say anything else. Seems like they really were going to leave. To capture the person boss described just now, Su Cher sighed in relief, but still held her scepter in front of her, maintaining a defensive stance. The group began to move. A voice came from one of the carriages. Do you know who the target is? He's just a piece of trash. We can easily take care of him. How can you be sure? Kindling said that he had just reached the 600th floor. Aha! Only reached the 600th floor, truly a piece of trash. I really don't understand why Kindling would be interested in such a person and insist on us capturing him. I don't understand either. Su Cher silently listened, hoping that they would leave as soon as possible. She really didn't have much soul points left, so she needed to get to the next location and see if she could find a way to get more soul points. But she couldn't leave right now. Otherwise, she would easily expose herself. She needed to maintain her defensive shield. Fortunately, the carriage had already started moving. From the looks of it, there won't be a fight. Sushare slowly calmed down. At this moment, a few words suddenly floated into her ears. The target is called Gu Qing Shan. Very well, let me chop off his head. That'll depend on boss. Don't be rash. Otherwise, you'll get beaten up by boss like last time. I won't plead on your behalf. As soon as Sushare heard that name, she forgot to breathe. Qing Shan, right? I remember now. Qing Shan uses a sword. Qing Shan does have a set of golden armor. He even mentioned it while chatting. He still came after all. These people are going to kill Qing Shan. Sushare's face paled as she quickly checked her soul points. As soon as the 11 disappeared, a 10 replaced it. I have 10 soul points left. The other side was a few dozen powerful people from various worlds. These people had already passed through numerous trials and reached the core area of this mission. They were all well-equipped, as well as having kindling on them, capable of exchanging for powerful items at any time of fight. They were all powerful demonized. Even I find these people hard to deal with, so I don't want to fight them. And Gu Qing Shan was only by herself. Sushare was stunned. Her fingers that were holding the scepter were turning white from clenching it too tightly. Time slowly passed. Sushare looked at the carriages that were about to leave and gritted her teeth. She placed her hand over her heart and murmured, "Life Ignition." A glowing card appeared in front of her chest before disappearing. An invisible wind drifted around her as a large amount of soul points was generated. Ho! His soul power brought about a powerful current of air that blew out, forcing back the violent snowstorm. This phenomenon immediately attracted the attention of those people. The carriages stopped. "Boss, look," someone called out. The 2-meter-tall warrior had already gotten off the carriage again. He looked at Sushare with a serious expression. "So much soul points, this amount of soul points is worth a bit of delay," he muttered. The warrior waved his hand. The group of people excitedly got off the carriages, quickly and skillfully preparing to attack. But Sushare didn't seem to notice at all. She stabbed the scepter of law into the layer of ice and muttered, "Blood Sea's End." Boom! The scepter of law that was always with her exploded into pure white powder. The powder drifted in the air and manifested into 77 cards, silently hovering above Sushare's head. Looking at the approaching enemies, Sushare felt a bit unsettled. Qing Shan, wiping away the tears at the corner of her eyes. Her beautiful face only had a cold expression. With a strange and threatening tone, she loudly chanted the incantation. Chapter 602. Fate. Only when I wither will it bloom. Sushare loudly chanted Fog, Isle's incantation. The 77 cards floating in the air began to give off blinding light. They were bestowed with immense soul points, ready to unleash their greatest power at any moment. While Sushare's body began to become blurry, this was the sign of burning her life force too much. In front of her, the 2-meter-tall steel-armored warrior suddenly reached his hand out towards the void of space half a meter in front of him. Bam! His hand was knocked back by the void of space. Even the gauntlet on his hand was burning hot. The steel-armored warrior finally understood. He waved his hand. "Everyone stand back, gather around me, and prepare to form a defensive formation. Boss," someone called out in confusion. "Hurry! She doesn't want to live anymore, but we can't die with her," the steel-armored warrior shouted. He quickly walked back, holding a large metal shield in front of himself. Everyone felt like they just woke up from a dream, hurriedly approached him, and formed a tight defensive formation. At this point, it was already too late to run. The 77 cards began to link together. Sushare's body began to give off a blinding holy light. The 3 tornadoes continued to circle around Sushare, finally creating a hole in the frozen wasteland, causing the water below to flow up into the sky. The steel-armored warrior nervously watched this and silently sighed. Her power is too overwhelming. She's already this strong before even attacking. Seems like this little girl really doesn't want to live anymore. But then, why? Our group was clearly about to leave. I already gave the order not to cause any unnecessary trouble and not to let anyone provoke her. Why is she still risking her life? No matter how much the steel-armored warrior thought about it, he still couldn't understand. In the sky, the 3 tornadoes scattered. The large amount of water that flowed down from the frozen wasteland froze in the air, forming 3 crystal-clear pillars of ice. This was an unprecedented sight in the entire frozen wasteland. The snowstorm no longer continued. The sky was dark. A cold mist had enveloped the girl in front of them. Their surroundings fell into absolute silence and distortion. This feeling was like being in a nightmare, and everyone's consciousness was affected by it. Although they were all less than 30 years old, they had seen a lot of things. Some of them were already trembling. "We must defend against this attack," someone shouted frantically. "That's right, everyone. Do your best," the armored warrior shouted. Everyone shouted, "Defend." At this moment, they erupted with unprecedented power and gathered around the armored warrior. In front of them, the cold mist surged rapidly. This fog connected heaven and earth, and it looked like a terrifying beast that was ready to devour all living beings at any time. Everyone swallowed their saliva and went into a defensive state with all their might. The fatal blow was coming. In the ice and snow fog, Sue chanted an incantation in a low voice, gathering the power of all the cards. At this moment, her figure became even more blurry. There was only one thought in Sue's mind. There wasn't much time left. He had to seize this last chance and go all out. Suddenly, her body trembled. An emerald green leaf appeared between her eyebrows. This leaf seemed to have an endless life force, and in an instant, her blurry figure became clear. The emerald green light soaked her like a spring. This was life force that surpassed all, a vast power that no living being could ever hope to reach. Sue was stunned. She could feel that her life force was still burning, but another vibrant power was infusing her with new life force. This power was far beyond her understanding. Under this power, all the impurities in her body were cleansed. Her body became even purer, forming a deeper connection with heaven and earth, the world, the laws, and the origin. She could even sense the slight ripples of this world. Wait, I was already dying. Why did I improve further and reach the level of a normal guru? Sue was surprised. She carefully sensed and finally noticed something. Waving her hand in the air, Sue summoned a silver mirror. In the mirror, a green leaf was seen fluttering in the wind between her eyebrows. Sue suddenly remembered. She and Gu Shan ran into a wooden beauty in Infinity World's town. She said that she was a friend of her Shifu. After having a meal with me, she placed a leaf in between my eyebrows. "It's her," Sue muttered. A moment later, a purple card flew out from Sue's body and shattered in the air. "No, my fate replacement card." Sue screamed in shock, but she couldn't do anything else. An illusory figure appeared and took her with it, disappearing from where they stood. A bull. It was now midnight, but a bull's revelry still hadn't ended. The Bramblebird Princess coming-of-age ceremony would last for 3 days and 3 nights. Everyone reveled throughout the night, enjoying the Bramblebird royal family's generosity. On the highest floor of the hotel, the observation deck, the wooden beauty stood still without moving. She seemed to be standing outside of all the hustle and bustle, silently observing the human realm like a deity. A royal guard walked up to the platform, knelt down on one knee, and respectfully spoke. "The heart of myriad trees, spirit of the holy tree of eternity, witness of the old gods of the infinite worlds, close friend of the bramble bird race, esteemed Lady Tethys, I have come to report a message to you." The wooden beauty didn't turn around and replied, "Speak, Lady Treest wants to ask you how your search is going." The wooden beauty Tethys smiled. "I really must say, although your princess is mischievous, her talents are truly astonishing." "What do you mean?" "I've already searched." She suddenly shut her mouth. "Lady?" The royal guard doubtfully asked. "Wait a moment. I need to deal with a personal matter first. Then I'll tell you," Tethys said. She raised her hand. A green flame quickly spread from her hand and enveloped her. The royal guard hurriedly retreated. As he watched the spreading green flames, he felt that it was a bit inappropriate for the bramble bird race to stand here and watch as the other party dealt with her personal matters. So he retreated to the bottom of the observation deck and waited for her to finish her business. The spirit of the holy tree, Lady Tethys, stood inside the green flame. "So it really is the Blood Sea's fate substitution. What a detestable technique." Recalling the past, she couldn't help but shake her head. Many years ago, the Lord of Blood also used this technique on her, causing her to explode in anger. From then on, there was no longer any possibility for the two of them to take a step forward. Shurfu is a self-righteous idiot, and the disciple she teaches is just as stupid. Lady Tethys appeared a bit angry. "Not even telling me before deciding for someone else. Do you really think you're that great?" She muttered in a low voice. Her hands didn't stop moving as she prepared a spell. After that incident, to prevent others from taking on anything else for her, she specifically researched a fate reversal technique. "And now, I will shatter your fate substitution card." The technique activated. The spirit of the holy tree's expression slowly turned prideful. Her gaze turned towards the vast night sky, as if she could see the two people whose fates had returned to normal. In an instant, she sensed a different meaning. If it weren't for the connection between the fate card and the dispel technique, she wouldn't have paid any attention, nor would she have noticed such a situation. Strange. Why is he in that world? Lola is also here. What exactly happened? The spirit of the holy tree's expression slowly turned serious. Having experienced the birth and destruction of infinite worlds, she had seen too many things in the world, so she was able to think of many possible scenarios. At this point, she finally became cautious. "That is her world. It seems that if I don't alarm her, I won't be able to do too much," the spirit of the holy tree muttered in a low voice, then prepared another technique. "I need a temporarily existing phase interface." The green flame in the spirit of the holy tree's hand turned into a faint figure that disappeared into the void of space. This figure directly passed through space and split into two. One appeared in front of Su Cher, while the other appeared in front of Guqing Shan. The figure took Su Cher and disappeared from that world. Fogile, the Lord of Blood, was currently sitting in his library, silently holding a card in his hand. Su Cher's portrait was drawn on this card. Her portrait was slowly becoming dim, about to disappear from the card. The Lord of Blood appeared surprised and muttered, "It's only the call of the bramblebirds. Why would it be so difficult?" He lightly waved his hand, summoning hundreds of cards that gave off a blood-red glow from the void of space. "Blood Sea Death Substitution Hex, ready," he ordered. The hundreds of cards gave off an endless blood-red glow, surrounding Su Cher's portrait card. All of a sudden, the Lord of Blood sensed something and pointed at the void of space. "Allow the passage to open." A crack appeared in the void of space. Tethys's figure appeared with Su Cher in tow. "Tethys, it's been too long since we last met." The Lord of Blood smiled and said, "This is your disciple. Keep an eye on her," Tethys coldly said. "What is it? Did she cause trouble?" "No, she's as stupid as you, thinking that she can trap her boyfriend so that she can bear whatever she wants." Tethys coldly glared at him, then flew into the crack in space and disappeared without a trace. "Wait, Tethys," the Lord of Blood loudly called out. But she had already left. The Lord of Blood sighed, then turned to Su Cher and asked, "My dear disciple, what exactly happened?" Su Cher also sighed. "Master, I was too panicked at the time. Now that I think about it, I should have told you first. It's like this." In the empty house of law, the master and disciple slowly explained the situation. "It seems the 900 million world layers full-scale war is about to begin." The Lord of Blood sighed. "Master, you want to participate in the war?" "Of course. No one can stay out of it." The Lord of Blood slowly returned to his seat, picked up a bottle of liquor from the table, poured a glass for Su Cher, then for himself. "Come, my disciple, have a drink to calm yourself down. Under normal circumstances, this was the beginning of her Shifu's scolding. Sushare received the glass and replied, "Very well." The two of them drank a glass of liquor. Sure enough, the Lord of Blood asked, "Shu'er, do you know what you've done wrong? When I discovered the danger, I hid the truth from you. That's part of the reason. But more importantly, you shouldn't hide anything from your lover and go through it all by yourself." Sushare froze. The Lord of Blood smiled bitterly. "As expected of my disciple, you're very similar to me, but I have to say, this will only cause your other half to feel pain. That's right, Lord Bloodcloak sighed. At this moment, he didn't seem like a top-tier combatant of the 900 million world layers, but rather a middle-aged man who had lost his way in love. I've also made the same mistake as you, but it took me many years to understand that what we're doing is the most foolish of actions. But if I don't bear it for him, how would he be able to face his inevitable death? This is something that can't be helped." Sushare shook her head. "How do you know that he won't be able to face his own fate?" The Lord of Blood asked in return. That predictor of fate card clearly showed his fate. Either death or demonization, Sushare replied. She spoke worriedly. Now that he's back on the path of his own fate, I'm worried that he'll die in that situation. The Lord of Blood smiled and asked, "Tell me, how did you keep him imprisoned in the hotel?" "The witch's kiss, the binding oath, the demon lord's protection," Sushare replied. "What Teeth has said just now means that your boyfriend has already escaped from these restraints. Please tell me, how did he do it?" Sushare froze. "These 3 restraints. Do you have a way to escape on your own?" The Lord of Blood asked again. Sushare couldn't help but think about it. The demon lord's protection. I can't do anything with my current strength. The binding oath. Even if I risk my life, I might be able to break it. The witch's kiss condition to break is too unique. I can't do anything about it. I can't even escape the first one," Sushare replied and blushed. "Wait a minute. How did Gu Qing Shan escape from the witch's kiss?" Sushare fell into a strange contemplation. Chapter 603. The House of Law. The conversation between the master and disciple was still going on. "Master, that lady just now saved me and gave me a leaf. With that leaf, I managed to break through my original realm. Is that so? It's normal for her to treat you like that. Who exactly is she to you?" "Used to be, a friend." Sushare displayed an expression of disbelief. "All right, I have to admit, she and I were once more than just friends." Lord of Blood smiled and said, as if reminiscing about the past. "When I was still young, I once left Fogal to explore the strife zones, wanted to see the world. And then I got to know her, that lady just now. Yes, we got along very well back then. We had a lot to talk about. And we got along very well, but she seemed very angry just now." Lord Bloodcloak smiled bitterly. "At the time, I didn't know her true identity, nor did I know how powerful she was. So one time, I tried to predict her fate on my own and found out that she was about to go through great danger." He laughed self-deprecatingly and said, "At the time, I did the same thing as you." Sushare asked. "She was angry that you acted on your own?" "Yes. After she found out the truth, she didn't even give me a chance to explain and directly left me. After so many years, she still hasn't forgiven me for my self-righteous actions at the time." Sushare went silent for a bit, then resolutely said, "But I can't just watch Qing Shan die. I'd rather." She suddenly became anxious. "Master, I beg you, can you save him?" Lord of Blood looked at Sushare and sighed. "Silly girl," he thought for a bit, then ordered, "Take out the 3 cards." Sushare hesitated a bit, then lightly tapped the void of space 3 times. Immediately, the 3 cards appeared one after another. Witch's Kiss, Binding Vow, Demon Lord's Protection. Because they were broken by the target, the glow of these 3 cards was exceptionally dim. Lord of Blood put the 3 cards away and silently chanted an incantation. He chanted for a full 20 breaths of time before he placed the 3 cards back into the air. A new card appeared in the Lord of Blood's hand. Other than a heavy chain, there was nothing else on the card. "Did you know? I used to have a lot of friends, but they all stopped talking to me," the Lord of Blood said. "Why?" Sushare asked. "Because every time we go out to fight, I always take care of everything in advance. If that's the case, Everyone should like you very much. I would destroy all the enemies and then watch my friends rush over excitedly, only to find all the enemies lying on the ground and me holding a glass of red wine, leisurely sipping it. Whenever this happens, the expression on their faces is really nostalgic. Teacher, if you do this, no one will want to interact with you anymore. No matter how outstanding a person is, they have to leave some room for their friends to shine. Whether it's a boyfriend, a friend who fights, or even other friends, you have to get to know them, understand them, and become true friends. You can't be like me. How do I put this? Mental abnormality? That's not the right word. Like a crane among chickens. That's the perfect word. The Lord of Blood clapped his hands. The card with the heavy shackles collapsed into clusters of light, enveloping Witch's Kiss, binding Oath, and Demon Master's protection. This is phantom tracking, a simple trick that requires my level of power to manifest. You can use this technique to track down the people who once defeated your technique and see their current situation through the images, the Lord of Blood explained. From the cluster of light, Gu Qingshan appeared. He was moving forward in the snowstorm. This was Triest's collection world. There were over 100 million demonized people in this world. Kindling was currently dispatching their best men to kill Gu Qingshan. Su Share's heart tightened. Teacher, he's in danger right now. No need to beg me. This technique of mine can only spy on him. It can't do anything else. We can go to a bull right now. We can't. Tethys must be anxiously preparing for war right now before the war begins. We can't go and alert them. Then we're going to stay here and watch. We're not going anywhere. The Lord of Blood spoke very seriously. Shuair, you don't even know how he managed to break through your 3 techniques. You need to understand him. Again, that way you'll know how to get along with him. Su Share was stunned. She looked at the image of light. Her beautiful eyes fell onto Gu Qingshan, unable to move away. At another location, Gu Qingshan was originally riding the wings of purgatory, running across the frozen wasteland. A faint figure suddenly appeared and lightly pressed down on the back of the wings of purgatory. Gu Qingshan and Lola disappeared together with the wings of purgatory. They appeared in a dark space filled with stars. To avoid being discovered, this star phase interface is only temporary. It can only exist for 1 minute. So let's keep it short, Lady Tethys quickly explained. Brat from a club, she told Gu Qingshan. Your girlfriend did something stupid. If I didn't stop her, she would have died in your place. So do you have the courage to return to your dangerous fate and take her place? My pleasure, Gu Qingshan clasped her fist. It's fortunate that you acted. I owe you a favor for this. You're not afraid to face your fate? Normally, it's me who's afraid. That's a very manly thing to say. Lady Tethys nodded, then looked at Gu Qingshan with a pleased expression. Excuse me, where's my girlfriend? I've handed her over to her Shifu. Don't worry, her Shifu might be a bit dumb, but he's quite strong outside the image. The Lord of Blood uncomfortably switched his glass from hand to hand. Gu Qingshan was relieved for now. Tethys gazed, then turned to Lola. I can only stay here for a few dozen seconds. Lola, don't you have anything you want to tell me? Auntie Tethys. Lola rushed up and grabbed Tethys' hand. Tears streamed down her face as she quickly explained everything. Lady Tethys listened carefully, occasionally nodding her head. Finally, she sighed. The war is about to begin. Tethys looked at Gu Qingshan and continued. I'm only a projection that was sent into the phase interface. I don't have the ability to take her back. Not to mention, if we return to a bull, Triest will easily find out where she is. If that's the case, Triest will be able to break the seal on her body. Once Triest connects to her own world, she will open this world and spread world apocalypse online across the entirety of a bull. I understand. The key to everything now lies with Lola, Gu Qingshan said. That's right, Lady Tethys said. Lola cannot appear. This world must temporarily remain in a state of isolation. Otherwise, the billions of demons will turn from the dark and directly take over a bull, causing a full-scale war within the 900 million world layers to erupt. That's why we need to stay here for now. This way we can guarantee that Triest won't be able to find this world, Gu Qingshan said. Tethys nodded, then asked, Lola said you swore that you would save her life? Yes. Very well. Everyone in the club is like that, Tethys said in satisfaction. It's time. I need to quickly return to prepare for the war, while you will have to face your original fate. Saying so, she disappeared. Gu Qing, Shan's vision blurred. He found himself once again in Tree's world. But now, he was in another place. Around him was an icy cold fog. Releasing his inner sight, he saw that not too far away, a few dozen people were in a defensive stance, waiting for him. Water vapor filled the air, as well as 3 giant pillars of ice that reached the sky. Those were the raging water currents below the frozen wasteland, drawn into the air by some sort of power. This planet was completely covered in ice, and underneath the ice was an ocean that had been frozen for many years. As Gu Qingshan observed the supernatural phenomenon around him, he quickly understood everything. Su Cher was about to fight to the death. Just as she was about to die, she was saved by that esteemed lady just now. That lady destroyed the spell that Su Cher used to change her fate. So now, Gu Qingshan had returned to his original fate. Gu Qingshan shook his head. Lola used a pair of binoculars to look outside the fog and said, "There are a lot of people on the other side, that's right. This is what I was supposed to face. What do we do now?" Lola asked. Gu Qingshan jumped off the horse and wore the silver mask on his face. With a thought, 3 flying swords circled around him, shuttling back and forth in the fog. Their end will be the same as kindling. Chapter 604. On the frozen wasteland. The cold wind was blowing intensely. It was snowing more and more. About a dozen demonized people formed a defensive formation, waiting. In front of them, the rampaging fog suddenly calmed down, as if it lost its momentum. The cold fog silently filled the air. "What happened?" someone asked in a low voice. "Silence," the steel armor warrior shouted. That person quickly shut up. Everyone held their breaths as they stared at the icy mist without blinking, only to see a figure moving through the fog. The figure slowly became clearer. It was a man wearing light golden armor and a silver mask who appeared from the fog. He held a sword in his hand, walking step by step towards the group. "Why did he turn into a man?" someone asked in surprise. "It's probably a summoning technique," someone else confirmed. Summoning technique. By paying a certain price, you can form a contract with a mysterious entity and summon them to help you in battle. Only a summoning technique could explain the situation. Everyone thought about it and nodded. The steel armor warrior spoke. "Fools, this isn't a summoning technique. Did you not notice that the woman is gone?" While saying so, he stared at the other party. How strange. He was so powerful just now. Why did his aura disappear all of a sudden? This golden-armored, silver-masked swordsman didn't give off any aura at all. Is he trying to be mysterious? Or is he hiding something? The steel armor warrior's subordinates were surprised. They carefully sensed the fog, but sure enough, they couldn't find any trace of the woman. That's right, there's never been a summoning technique that could make the summoner disappear. Which means this golden-armored swordsman is that woman. But their stature doesn't match. Everyone exchanged glances, feeling that the situation was a bit strange. "Boss, what do we do now?" someone hesitantly asked. "Don't worry. No matter what he is, he'll eventually become our soul points," the steel armor warrior answered. He gripped his shield tightly and walked out from the group. "Where's the girl?" he asked the golden-armored swordsman. The golden-armored swordsman slowly walked forward and replied, "You shouldn't have asked that, why not? She's mine. Who are you? Answer me now, or I'll kill you right now," the steel armor warrior spoke. He raised his shield, ready to fight. Gu Qingshan stopped walking. He sized him up, then looked at the crowd in front of him. Apart from the 2-meter-tall armored warrior, the others also prepared their defenses. Looking at their defensive postures and formations, it was obvious that they were veterans who had been through hundreds of battles. Apart from their own strength, they could also exchange for items from the kindling at any time. It would not be easy to fool him then. Gu Qingshan sighed and moved her stiff neck. "If you want to know who I am, you have to survive first." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly disappeared. A thick steel shield appeared where he had been standing. It was the full-body shield that the armored warrior had erected in front of him. At the same time, Gu Qingshan stuck close to the armored warrior and stabbed her sword into his chest. This was a sword strike without any warning. The iron-armored warrior was pierced by the sword, but he laughed sinisterly and said, "You want to kill me? I want." He exerted all his muscles and gripped the sword tightly. This time, the other party could no longer use his sword. If he did not let go in time, he would definitely be smashed to pieces by his fist. When the armored warrior was about to react, the other party had already attacked again. Gu Qingshan raised her sword. The armored warrior was lifted up high along with his sword. The sword abruptly swung forward. The armored warrior was thrown into the air towards his subordinates behind him. "Quickly catch, boss." The people didn't care about their defensive formation and hurriedly called out. The armored warrior fell down. Fortunately, his subordinates managed to catch him, but the armored warrior suddenly disappeared. A blue-clothed girl wielding a sword replaced him and appeared among the group of demonized. Her sword struck. Secret art, drawn shadow. In an instant, layers upon layers of sword images bloomed in the wind. Countless sword images weaved through the group of demonized, slicing and killing. "Oh no, my spells can't stop this attack," someone shouted in fear. Boom! A thick mist of blood exploded everywhere, followed by screams and screams. On the other side, the armored warrior had switched places with Shanu and reappeared in front of Gu Qingshan. He didn't know what just happened, only felt his vision blurring as he returned to the enemy. The armored warrior drew a spear and shouted, "You demon, I'll kill." But Gu Qingshan had been waiting for this moment. Her sword moved. The earth sword turned into a blurred image, whistling through the air as it sliced through the armored warrior's neck. His head flew up. The armored warrior's body was still frozen in place, his spear still raised. The headless body didn't move at all, as if unwilling to accept such an ending. "What did you say just now?" Gu Qingshan stopped her sword and asked. Clank! The head wearing a thick steel helmet fell from the sky, smashing a shallow pit on the ice. Gu Qingshan shook his head. "Seems like I asked too late." With a light push, the headless body fell to the ground. Gu Qingshan disappeared again. He reappeared next to Shanu. At this point, Shanu's drawn shadow had just ended. All the demonized who tried to use defensive techniques were cut down by Shanu with a single strike. Only those who used all sorts of powerful defensive equipment to defend themselves survived, even though they were in a miserable state. Gu Qingshan raised the earth sword. Secret art, drawn shadow again. Streaks of black sword shadows burst forth with a loud rumble. The earth sword that weighed 86,370,000 tons unleashed violent sword images that could destroy everything in their path. All the demonized around her, as well as their defensive equipment, were crushed to pieces by the sword phantoms. Only one demonized combatant realized his impending death in the midst of this intense battle. He shouted, "Kindling, exchange all of my soul points for unfortunately." Before he could say the word Demon Lord, a vast white crescent sword phantom came straight at him. It was such a huge sword gleam that it wiped his entire body from the ice field. Not a single piece of flesh remained. "Gongzi, it's a good thing you came. He almost got away with it." Shanu held the Six Paths great mountain sword in her hand and spoke in relief. "I've been cautious. I definitely won't let them give their soul points to Kindling to exchange for something else," Gu Qingshan replied. He put the earth sword away and looked around. The thick layer of ice on the frozen wasteland had been broken through. The demonized were scattered all over the water. They were all dead. From the start of the battle until now, it only took 3 breaths worth of time. In such a short amount of time, the majority of the demonized didn't even realize what happened before they were killed. All of their soul points were completely taken away by Gu Qingshan. Shanu stood on top of a piece of ice, curiously looking into the water. "Gongzi, this ice is so deep," she was surprised. "That's right. Wait a bit. I need to take care of something," Gu Qingshan said. While saying so, he looked at the 2 systems. A notification popped up on both the red and blue UI. "You obtained 3,165 soul points. a few lines of text appeared on the War God UI. You've successfully collected 3,000 soul points, triggering the second strength accumulation. Please choose the skill you want to use accumulation. I choose Tai Sword Array. Are you sure? I'm sure. The system has locked this skill again. The next time you use this skill, attack power will be doubled. The blue War God UI slowly faded away. A voice appeared on the red kindling UI. You've collected a considerable amount of soul points. From now on, you can exchange for any item from the system. Saying so, the entire kindling UI automatically displayed itself in front of Guqing Shan. On the first page, there were all kinds of long swords. These swords are really... Guqing Shan clicked his tongue. It took him a lot more effort than during the battle just now to stop himself from looking at the swords. Thank you for your kindness, but I'll most likely accumulate more soul points before exchanging for more valuable items, Guqing Shan replied. Your soul points can already be given to me to exchange for powerful fame swords. What else do you want to exchange for? Kindling couldn't help but ask. Guqing Shan coldly laughed. Soul points? Haha, I want to exchange for this. He pointed at the other side of the UI. This side was filled with demon lords. Guqing Shan pointed at the strongest demon lord and said, I want this. It was a wolf-headed humanoid monster with a crown on its head. It had its eyes closed, silently floating on the UI. Below it, there was a line of annotations. Chapter 605. The Dead Soul Demon King silently floated on the UI, eyes closed and motionless. Why do you want this? Kindling asked. It looks very powerful. It can fight for me, Guqing Shan replied. Kindling fell silent. Guqing Shan pointed at the Dead Soul Demon King and continued. Do I have enough soul points? If so, please exchange for this for me. The amount of soul points Guqing Shan had was far from enough to exchange for this demon lord, which meant she couldn't get the soul points he collected for now. Not enough, Kindling could only reply. I guess it's not enough either. This thing looks very scary. Looking at this demon lord, Guqing Shan couldn't help but clench her sword tighter. A chaotic demon lord was a much more powerful weapon of war than a remodeled demon lord. They had all sorts of eerie abilities that couldn't be defended against. Usually, a single chaotic demon lord was enough to end an entire war. In the past life, it took 2 Sainted Realm cultivators to barely be able to deal with a single remodeled demon lord. But now that Guqing Shan was in the 900 million world layers, a demon lord had become an item that could be exchanged for. Recalling the past life, then looking back at this life, everything felt like a dream. All the items that could be exchanged disappeared from Kindling, SUI. Kindling, S voice came. To exchange for this demon lord, you'll need to work even harder. Guqing Shan clenched her fist. I will. Kindling stayed silent for a bit, then announced. The next quest. In the frozen wasteland, in the middle of an icy mountain range, there's a grand divine temple. In the age of old, when the old gods were still in this world, they built this divine temple to view the living beings they created. You need to arrive there and complete the old gods' ritual. What's the ritual about? Guqing Shan asked. You'll know when you get there. Now, you can start moving. Following Kindling, S explanation, a quest icon appeared on the War God UI. Please specify your quest. Guqing Shan thought for a bit and silently told the War God UI. Let's not assign the quest for now. We'll decide after we get there. He gazed into the distance. That was the end of the ice field. Towering and majestic icebergs were connected one after another, with no end in sight. On the summit of a mountain surrounded by icebergs, there was a magnificent building. The building was like an iceberg, completely made of ice and snow. From afar, it looked magnificent. Guqing Shan fell into deep thought. Now that Su Sher had been saved, all that was left was to kill the Pyro Company. But just now, Kindling displayed the Dead Soul Demon King. This meant one thing. Even if no demonized person could gather enough soul points to summon a Dead Soul Demon King, Kindling could summon it on its own. This was troublesome. With her sainted late-stage cultivation, Guqing Shan wasn't afraid of a demon lord that could change its appearance. But the Dead Soul Demon King was a chaotic demon lord, much stronger than a remodeled demon lord. With that in mind, Gu Shan closed her eyes. He began to sense his own power. His dantian was filled with spirit energy, flowing through his entire body through his meridians. His sword qi was sharp. Combined with his spirit energy, he could feel the power of the Tao within his inner sight. In fact, as long as he formed hand seals, various spells would appear. Gu Shan looked up again. In the boundless void of space, a faint connection was constantly being pulled onto his body. This was the law of heaven and earth resonating with him. Indeed, he was about to break through to Sainted Realm. As a cultivator, whenever they were about to break through, the law of heaven and earth would sense it. The lightning of heaven and earth would be used to baptize powerful enough cultivators, as well as steal away the weaker ones. Survival of the fittest. No matter which world they were in, every cultivator would have to face the heavens' tribulation. This was also clearly recorded in the Jade Scrolls collected by the Suspended World. The law of heaven and earth had always been this cruel. Thinking about it, I wonder, after projection, tribulation, virtualized, and cryptic, can a cultivator still advance further? Then how should a cultivator advance? Although Bali's wounds haven't fully healed yet, Gu Shan could tell from her instinct that Bali was at least 10,000 times stronger than Wang Hong Dao. Is there a cultivator as strong as Bali? Gu Shan sighed. He retracted his thoughts and stopped thinking. No matter what, instead of thinking, it's better to keep one's feet on the ground and move forward step by step. At this moment, although he's already at the point where he could break through to Sainted Realm, Gu Shan still had a feeling. As if after going through so many things, he had a few thoughts in his mind. These thoughts told him that now isn't the right time to break through. After all, compared to people at Bali's level, what difference does it make if he's Sainted Realm or Projection Realm? Gu Shan gritted his teeth, listened to his instinct, and gave up on the thought of breaking through right away. Let's go, Gu Shan said. Shanna nodded, went back into the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword, and hid behind Gu Shan. The Earth Sword and Chao Yin's sword also disappeared. Gu Shan returned to the cold fog. He took out a formation plate and put away the various concealment formations one by one. Lola appeared. She sat on the back of the black horse, holding a piece of cake and slowly eating it. Is it over? She asked. It's over just like that, Lola muttered in a low voice. Let's go. Gu Shan jumped back on the horse. Lola put the cake away and wiped her mouth. You acted too quickly just now. I was going to watch for a bit longer, she complained. If I didn't act quickly, there would be big trouble, Gu Shan sighed helplessly. Big trouble. They'll summon a few very troublesome things. While they were talking, the black horse asked, Gentlemen, are you in a hurry or going for a stroll? We're in a hurry. Not too much, Gu Shan replied. Got it. The black horse strode forward and charged into the snowstorm. At another location, Fog Isle, the House of Law. The scene slowly became blurry. Gu Shan had already gone far away. Lord Bloodcloak looked at Su Shui Air with a meaningful look but didn't say anything. Su Shui suddenly hugged her head and slammed it against the table. What are you doing? Lord of Blood asked. His finger lightly moved. The table was instantly filled with soft pillows. Su Shui buried her head into the pillow and said in pain, How embarrassing. Lord of Blood smiled and consoled her. His sword strikes were very tricky, which is your bane. If not for that, he might not have been a match for you. Is that so? Su Shui looked up and asked. That's right. As long as you have the time for a meal to prepare your spells, you'll be able to win against him perfectly. Lord of Blood swirled his glass and elegantly said, A meal? What the hell? Who would want to give their opponent a meal in the middle of a battle? Su Shui buried her head into the pillow again and dejectedly said, Teacher, don't hit me like that. Lord of Blood smiled, then seriously told her, Do you know how many people who use cold weapons to fight can't even learn his style of fighting for their entire lives? Whether it's strength, spells, or the power of his techniques, he might not be a match for many people. But at his age, I've never seen someone as unreasonable as him. Unreasonable. Su Shui looked up and curiously asked, Teacher, what do you mean? No matter how many tricks you have, this strike of mine will take your life. That way, You won't be able to use any of your skills. That's about it. Lord of Blood took a sip of his liquor and continued. A person like him, I don't know what he's been through to be able to do this at such a young age. Also, it would have been better if you hadn't trapped him. Why not? Sushare was a bit confused. You could have fought by his side. You would have been the vanguard, while you, as the card user, would have supported him from behind. This would have been a very good combo, Lord of Blood explained. This kind of battle would have helped the two of you get to know each other better, nurturing your feelings for each other. You could have stayed in Tree's world for a while. These days would have become your most precious memories. After all, it's easy to show your true feelings in battle. Sushare was stunned for a bit. Embark, I'm so regretful, she shouted and buried her head deep into the pillow. Seeing Sushare's reaction, Lord of Blood appeared pleased. What do you plan to do next? He waited for a while before asking. After this is over, I'll go apologize to him, Sushare answered. Her voice sounded very dejected. Lord of Blood thought for a bit, then continued. This battle is over. If you don't want to watch anymore, I'll stop the spell. Do you still want to watch his battle? Sushare immediately looked up, her eyes glowing as she nodded like a chicken eating rice. Lord of Blood chanted an incantation with a smile. The screen of light turned from blurry to clear. Gu Shan appeared again. He was riding a black horse, heading towards the iceberg at the far end of the frozen wasteland. Sushare stared at Gu Shan without blinking. She looked so serious, so focused. Lord of Blood glanced at Sushare's expression and calmed down. You can watch first. Teacher has something to do. Got it. Lord of Blood left the room. He once again set up layers of defensive spells around the House of Law. A bunch of weaklings addicted to illusory authority. They want to touch my disciple, he muttered. After everything was done, Lord of Blood clapped his hands in satisfaction. He suddenly disappeared. At the very next moment, he appeared in the space vortex 12 world layers away from a bull. After sensing around a bit, Lord of Blood muttered in satisfaction. Very good. No one found me. Then, before we start an all-out war, let's find where they're hiding. Lord of Blood played a few dozen blood-colored cards at once. Chapter 606. Late at night. A bull. The banquet was still going on. Everyone danced and sang, enjoying themselves to their heart's content. For the next 3 days, all the expenses of this place were paid for by the Bramble Bird royal family. For the Bramble Bird Kingdom, even if this banquet was held for 100 million years, the amount of money on it wouldn't make them feel uncomfortable. Having lived in the mystic zones for countless years, the treasures they collected filled the entire national treasury. Normally speaking, no one would try to steal from them either, because the mystic zones were located at the very center of the 900 million world layers. Even going there would be problems for a normal person. Not to mention the dangers of the mystic zones, which even combatants would feel chills running down their spines. Because of that, the Bramble Bird Kingdom was one of the wealthiest countries in the 900 million world layers. The combatant behind a bull, who was also the boss of a bull, had a good relationship with the Bramble Birds, which was why he was given the right to host the Bramble Bird Princess Coming of Age ceremony. It was also because of this combatant that the Bramble Bird Kingdom didn't directly buy the entirety of a bull. However, that combatant called Smoke only showed up once on the day of the Bramble Bird royal family's arrival. After that, he disappeared. No one knew where he went, but no one really cared about this. After all, the main character of a bull for the next 3 days was the Bramble Bird royal family. Triest also managed to cover up everything. Because of that, only Meow and Bali knew what happened to that combatant. The banquet hall, the beautiful and dignified light of Dawn Triest, who had emerald green eyes, said a few words apologetically to a few distinguished guests under everyone's gazes, then left leisurely. She went to the top floor of the hotel and looked down at the highest observation deck of the hotel. On the observation deck, a cluster of green flames illuminated the night sky. How is it? She asked in a low voice. The guard here replied, Madam, she was currently dealing with a private matter, so she didn't have time to ask private matter. Triest asked in surprise. The guard nodded in confirmation. Triest pondered a bit, then suddenly took a few steps forward. She disappeared from the top floor and directly appeared on the observation deck, smiling as she spoke. "Spirit of the holy tree of eternal life, my most esteemed friend, Your Excellency Tethys, I am truly sorry that I had to trouble you to help us find the princess. Just thinking about it makes me feel ashamed. The spirit of the holy tree." Lady Tethys did not respond for a moment. She seemed to be under some kind of spell. Fortunately, at this moment, the green flames surrounding the spirit of the eternal holy tree shrunk rapidly and returned her hand. However, two shadows flew out of the green flames and entered Lady Tethys's forehead. I see. In the blink of an eye, everything that the two shadows had experienced appeared in Tethys' mind. The truth was so shocking that the flame in her hand trembled slightly. It was extremely rare for such a situation to happen to her. Tethys continued to shake her wrist and retracted the burning green flames. Darkness returned to the observation deck. Tethys looked across. Trist was standing in the darkness, staring at her without moving. She was studying her. She was also studying her. Tethys suddenly smiled. "No need to be so polite. I've watched Lola grow up. Whenever she's mischievous, it's always a headache for everyone. Then, have you found her yet?" Trist asked. "Not yet, but the only place I haven't searched is the VIP area. The problem is, once I search the VIP area, my spell might disturb some of the most esteemed people." Tethys seemed a bit troubled and continued. "Some of the most important people have very bad tempers. That's why I don't want to search the VIP area without a good reason." Hearing that, Trist fell silent. She couldn't help but let go of her other thoughts and seriously consider this problem. Because for the Bramblebirds, searching the VIP area of their banquet is a very, very, very rude thing to do. But the spirit of the holy tree searching technique is the strongest in all of a bull. To find Princess Lola, I have to rely on Tethys, and I have to search the VIP area. This is the most important thing right now." Trist thought for a bit, then sighed and said, "It's fine, just search. I'll deal with this problem. I won't make anyone feel rude, then I'll leave it to you," Tethys said. Trist nodded, gracefully bowed, then turned to leave. Only Tethys was left standing in the darkness on the platform. After a while, when she was sure that Trist had left, Tethys muttered something to the void of space. Time slowly passed. Finally, the void of space shifted as the big rooster appeared on the platform. "I've already tried." As soon as he opened his mouth, Tethys covered it. "Let's talk somewhere else." Tethys put her hand on the big rooster's wing. The two of them disappeared. The royal green room. There was no one here. The big rooster and Tethys suddenly appeared here. Where's Goo Boy?" the big rooster asked in confusion. "I had him do something for me. Let's not talk about him for now. How are things on your side?" The big rooster replied. "I've tried. The entirety of a bull is in a miraculous lockdown. Anyone who tries to send a message outside would be shattered by the void of space, but the person who sends a message wouldn't know about this," Tethys asked. "In other words, no matter what happens here, no one can send a message outside." That's right, the big rooster crossed his wings, a bit doubtful. Since when did the Bramblebird Kingdom do something like that? It shouldn't be. There's no way to send a message at all? "I know you're an expert in this field." Tethys stared at the big rooster and continued to ask. Hearing her say that, the big rooster puffed out his chest and proudly declared, "That's right, I'm an expert in sending messages. If you have any message to send out, I'm the only one in a bull who can help you. What's your solution?" Tethys asked. "Look." The big rooster endured the pain and plucked a long feather from his body. "My feather has the ability to pass through all obstacles. If you have any urgent messages to send out, please use my feather." He took the long feather, knelt down on one knee, and offered it to Tethys. "You just need to inject whatever you want into the feather, then silently say that person's name," the big rooster told her. "It won't be intercepted. I guarantee it won't." The big rooster patted his chest. Tethys received the feather and quickly injected some information into it. She called out a person's name. The feather quickly disappeared. Tethys closed her eyes and silently waited for a while. Within her senses, There were no abnormalities in the entirety of a bowl, and no one had noticed that the feather had flown out of this world. It will be able to find that person? Tethys opened her eyes and asked. Indeed, don't worry. It will find that person on its own, the big rooster pridefully answered. It won't be intercepted by anything. I guarantee it won't. And it won't be noticed by anyone. Tethys thought for a bit and praised. That's quite impressive, of course. Using my feather to send messages isn't just fast. It's also the highest level of confidentiality. You can be assured. When the big rooster was about to continue, he noticed the atmosphere wasn't right. Turning around, he saw Tethys silently observing him. Her gaze was a bit strange, causing him to feel a chill in his heart. Madam, what's the matter? The big rooster asked. This bad feeling. Could it be she wants to eat chicken again? The big rooster couldn't help but think. Tethys reached her hand out and lightly stroked his face. I have something very important that I need you to do. Being stroked by her, the big rooster felt like he had been injected with 500 milliliters of chicken blood and loudly shouted, Madam, I will do anything for you. Really? Not a single lie. Very well. I have an extremely urgent matter that I need to notify all the combatants of the 900 million world layers that I can trust. Then, what do you mean? Can you give me all your feathers? Chapter 607. On the other side, Tree's collection world. Gu Qingshan and Lola were riding on the black horse. Using the wings of purgatory's speed, they passed through several snowy mountains and finally reached the tallest iceberg in the middle of the mountain range. This was a very unique iceberg. Because it was crystal clear, you could see the inside of the iceberg through the layer of ice. Faint blue ice and water, as well as tiny air bubbles, were floating inside the iceberg, while the ice on the surface of the iceberg reflected the clouds in the sky. The two strange scenes intertwined, almost like a dream. How beautiful! I like this iceberg. Lola clapped her hands. Let's go. Let's go. As they were about to move, the black horse suddenly stopped. Its eyes were staring straight at the inside of the iceberg. Gu Qingshan and Lola didn't say anything, because they were also in an indescribable situation. A gigantic shadow appeared inside the iceberg. This shadow was at least a few dozen meters wide, almost 100 meters long. It casually appeared from the bottom of the iceberg and swam towards the top. The layer of ice was almost transparent, but because of the rapid flow of water, the light of the ice and the air bubbles mixed together, making the gigantic shadow look extremely blurry. Even so, looking at the gigantic and blurry shadow through the layer of ice was still shocking. As long as you look at that gigantic thing, you can't help but feel the urge to worship it. This was because the difference in life form was so great that it gave rise to such a feeling. Gu Qingshan tried to use his inner sight to peer into the layer of ice to see what kind of monster that shadow was. But as soon as his inner sight touched the iceberg, it was blocked by the outermost layer of ice. As if some sort of strange power had enveloped the entire iceberg. Gu Qingshan looked towards the top of the iceberg. A solemn and dignified structure stood at the top of the iceberg. That's the divine temple? He couldn't help but recall the quest that Kinling gave him. In the outer region of the iceberg, there's a grand divine temple. In the age of old, when the old gods were still in this world, they built this divine temple to view the living beings they created. You need to get there and complete the ceremony of the ancient gods. Gu Qingshan fell into deep thought. That black shadow, just now, seemed to be a life created by the ancient gods. After crossing countless years, this thing still managed to survive. It was most likely not an existence that was easy to deal with. Two people and a horse held their breath and stood there quietly. They didn't relax until the huge monster was far away. What is that? Lola asked softly. I'm not sure either. Probably some kind of creature from this world, Gu Qingshan said. A terrifying thought flashed through his mind. What? What'd I just think of? Gu Qingshan tried to think about it again, but she found that she couldn't grasp the idea. But that thought did not go unnoticed. Gu Qingshan's body trembled as she shivered, as if she was being invaded by some kind of chill. Lola raised her head and looked at the peak of the mountain that pierced through the clouds. It's too high. I don't want to go up. After seeing that thing, She no longer felt that this ice mountain was beautiful. I don't want to go up either, Gu Qingshan sighed. But we have to go. Lola couldn't say anything. That's right, we've already come this far. What's wrong with giving up halfway? Is it just because I'm afraid of heights and monsters that I shouldn't fight against Triest? All of my family members who came to a bull with me died at Triest's hands. This is a pain and hatred that can never be erased. Even if I have to endure pain that I've never experienced before compared to death, it's nothing. The rims of Lola's eyes became red. Gu Qingshan, do you adults all have such a hard time? Everyone is. A bull held a banquet for 3 days and 3 nights to celebrate my coming of age. But I didn't think coming of age would be something like this. Gu Qingshan stayed silent. According to human time, Lola was only 7 years old. 7 years old. Is that considered an adult? Gu Qingshan fell back into his memories. When he was 7 years old, he couldn't survive on a meager amount of money he received, so he could only help wash dishes and do odd jobs at a restaurant in the slums. But he didn't get paid. The only benefit was that he got to eat 2 free meals a day. Fortunately, public education was free, so he was able to work part-time and study at the same time until he grew up. The hardship and suffering he had to go through himself is something you can't understand. When he was 13 years old, he could already make dishes that the restaurant owner would praise. From that year onwards, his life slowly began to improve. Gu Qingshan sighed. He put Lola down from his shoulder and hugged her. 7 years old. Such a young girl, but she's already an orphan. Gu Qingshan sincerely told her, Lola, the life of an adult is always full of hardship and exhaustion. This can't be helped, but I hope that you can pull yourself together. Pull myself together? That's right. If you don't pull yourself together, life will decide your life for you. I don't want that to happen. Lola buried her head in his chest and muttered. This mountain, we still have to climb it, Gu Qingshan said. We have to take a look then. If the 2 of us work together, we'll definitely be able to fight against Triest. Lola pouted and took a deep breath. She spoke with determination. We have to beat her. Very well. That's the spirit. Let's go. Let's go. As the 2 of them were about to move, Gu Qingshan suddenly stopped. In the ice layer of the iceberg, the light blue water turned blood red. Oh. An earth-shattering roar came from deep underground, as if the entire earth itself was roaring. Lola was so scared that she hid in Gu Qingshan's chest. Gu Qingshan squinted his eyes and silently listened to the roar. From this roar, he could sense some sort of emotion, like sadness, but also like pain. But mostly, it was helplessness. The roar slowly faded. In the blink of an eye, a giant shadow appeared from below the ice mountain. It appeared inside the ice mountain, following the flow of water towards the divine temple at the top of the ice mountain. During the entire process, the giant shadow didn't move at all, nor did it make any sound. It seemed to be dead. When the giant shadow went past Gu Qingshan saw a pair of eyes. A pair of giant eyes, full of despair and pain. A sentient life form. Gu Qingshan muttered. Around the shadow, the light blue water was covered in a thick mist of blood. Blood. This was the wound on the monster's body. The color of blood spread, manifesting a deep red glow that reflected the light in the water, leaving traces of blood on Gu Qingshan's body. Gu Qingshan stood still, watching as the shadow disappeared from her sight. Just now, there was a living monster. This was the second one. For such a giant creature to exist in this world, they seemed to be the creations of the old gods. Lola muttered. As the Bramblebird Princess, she was naturally knowledgeable. Gu Qingshan seriously listened. All of a sudden, a bone-chilling thought flashed through his mind. This time, Gu Qingshan managed to grasp this thought. Living beings, living beings. Gu Qingshan's back was soaked in cold sweat as he froze in place. What's the matter? Lola looked at him and asked worriedly. I've understood a few things. Gu Qingshan wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and forced himself to calm down. In his vision, the war god UI was blinking madly. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the UI. You've met the living beings of this world. You've noticed a certain possibility. At the same time, the war god UI has also noticed something. Now I need to understand the entire situation. Please tell the War God UI, what exactly did you discover? Gucci and Sean quickly read through the lines of glowing text on the War God UI. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.